Chapter 791, A Crisis? But no one would have thought that the crisis would happen so soon. In a jungle in the north of Xuanhuan, 5 people were walking quickly. On their way, 3 squirrels suddenly leapt out beside them. The old man leading the group had a flash of green in his eyes. Clatter! The 3 little squirrels suddenly burst into flames, which then dissipated. Seeing this, a sharp-faced man beside him smiled. "Old Devil, why are you so angry?" The one who was called Old Devil was the Capricemo sect leader. He shook his head at his words and sneered, "It's not that I have a bad temper, it's just that I'm dissatisfied with Wind Snow School. It's fine for them to take advantage of us by asking us to come over for a detailed discussion. At least, they should be sincere, which is good. They are not helping nor are they giving anything, which is fine. However, at least, they promised 10 kinds of divine objects, right? But they did not even bother to negotiate, nor did they want to take on anything at all and told us to discuss it among ourselves. With regards to the plan that we are going to capture Zhang Han's daughter and force him out, I think it's perfectly fine, but some others objected strongly against it, saying that they want to do it on the day of the grand wedding. At this point, the Capricemo sect leader was so angry that his palms trembled. Aren't they a bunch of f***ing brainiacs? Events like weddings will surely be heavily guarded, and although there are so many of us, if we fight in the downtown area, it will be a dead end for us. The sharp-faced old man shook his head and said, "You're right. As for the other clans, some are desperate and some want to make a fortune and go to the ancient mine, and some of them change their minds easily according to the situation. Only you and I want to rebuild the clan and regain our original glory, so we can't be too brazen. The best way is to lure them out of the city. Hey, Black-White Palace is too scary to mess with. What's even more terrifying is that someone among the officials can get help from Black-White Palace." A trace of fear flashed in the Capricemo sect leader's pupils. This time, only Capricemo sect and 10 Tiger sect would be showing up. There were a total of 8 people. 3 of them had come to check the road in advance. The other 5 would arrive later. They were ready to strike. When Zhang Han Yang goes to pick up his daughter, Zhang Guangyu or someone else should be guarding her, who probably will be the Grand Elder of the Heavenly Knights sect, Dong Chen, or perhaps the 3rd Elder. They may guard her together. Let's see what will happen later. The Capricemo sect leader thought about it and said, "If there are too many people, we'll retreat and wait for those guys from Wind Snow School to strike tomorrow." Yes. After a few simple words, they picked up their speed and headed in the direction of the Saint Kindergarten in the western south island of Xuanhuan. At this time, Zhang Han, who had just said goodbye to everyone, drove the little panda car to the kindergarten to pick up Meng Meng. Zhang Han thought, when everything is over after this period, I will spend some time with Xian. Zhang Han casually tuned into the radio station, which was playing one of Xian's songs, and while listening to the song, Zhang Han couldn't help but think of Mount New Moon. Recently, Xian was somewhat bored. She had stayed in Heavenly Knights sect for more than a month, and after she came out, she had been staying in Mount New Moon again. She had even given up her work for the time being, all because of Zhang Han. When she went out shopping the last time, she had been very happy. Xian was not as indifferent as what the outsiders thought of her. She was young. Although she was a mother, she liked to have fun. Under Zhang Han's influence, she had become quite lively as well now. So Zhang Han was also pondering that after his breakthrough and taking in so many treasures, his body had reached a saturated degree, where there was a lot of energy hidden inside, so he had to slowly absorb and digest it, and after the process was over, only after he absorbed the energy of the spiritual treasures again would some effects be seen. To put it bluntly, Zhang Han disliked the usual slow pace of his practicing and decided to have a rest during this period. The song ended and Zhang Han was about to sail into New Moon Bay. At this time, a gentle female voice came over the radio. It's a song from Xian and its title is Loving You, which sounds very nice. Her heavenly voice is admirable. We all know Xian, who is super good looking. A few months ago, The film she shot, which was titled Pirates of the Caribbean, became a box office hit. It is said that Xian will be married tomorrow. Of course, we are very curious about the male lead, who happened to be that male lead of Pirates of the Caribbean as well. He has another name, which is Han Yang. What a mysterious man, but he will also appear tomorrow. I am very curious about what he will be like in reality. So now, a song named The Most Beautiful Expectation for everyone's listening pleasure. Moreover, I wish Xian a happy wedding and wish all the lovers in the world a happy ending. After hearing this broadcast, many young people would surely pay attention to Xian's wedding, which could even quickly become the most popular topic on various websites. After all, Xian had many fans. Zhang Han would have smiled lightly at this, but this was not the case. Instead, his gaze suddenly became a little cold. Ha! He laughed faintly. Two little tails, are they trailing me, or? Zhang Han had a highly sensitive spiritual sense. If someone was following him, he would be aware of it from the first moment. Ignoring the martial artists behind him who were at Earthrealm Peak, Zhang Han drove directly to Saint Kindergarten. After he picked up Meng Meng, he smiled tenderly and hugged her, then he held hands with the little girl, put her in the back seat, started the car and headed in the direction of Mount New Moon. But, as soon as he started the car, his eyes became even colder. Are they even trying to target Meng Meng? Zhang Han felt slight anger in his heart. Although they had not made a move yet, their intention to target his daughter made him inevitably angry. The hostility hidden in his heart erupted abruptly. Even so, Zhang Han became calmer. For an ordinary person, if he wanted to climb step by step to the 9th stage of tribulation in the dangerous world of immortal cultivation, he simply could not do it if he was not somewhat capable. So Zhang Han drove as usual. 5 minutes later, the tracking team made up of 8 people followed behind. Zhang Han naturally did not know the Capricemo sect leader and the others, but he knew that when he drove to a road in the mountain 10 minutes later, they would strike. That was exactly the case. A disciple at Earth Peak Stage said to the Capricemo sect leader, "Headmaster, there is a remote place not far ahead of us where we can strike indiscriminately." "Well, then we'll do it later." The 10 Tiger sect leader was in a great mood and laughed. "I never thought that we would succeed so easily. Ha ha ha, they are not vigilant at all, right? They demolished our clan's houses. Do they think we'll put up with them and do nothing? Hey, we have considered various situations, but we still miscalculated it, nor did we even expect that it would be Zhang Han Yang coming alone. He is also somewhat powerful." The Capricemo sect leader scoffed. At least when the gate of the small world was not open yet, he succeeded in the mundane world. Zhang Han Yang is well known, and what's more, he's the son of the young master of Heavenly Knights sect, whom no one even knows anything about. He's hiding it too deeply. 10 Tiger sect leader looked at the slow-moving car in front of him and smiled faintly. If it weren't for Grand Elder of Wind Snow School, we would not have known either. According to my observation, it is because of the closing of the gate of the small world that people rarely know anything about the young master of Heavenly Knights sect, Guan Yu's descendants. As for Zhang Han Yang, he just made his debut a year ago and came out of nowhere. No one knows his origin. Speaking of this, he is quite capable. Unfortunately, it's a pity. He should not have come out alone. After today, there will be no more Zhang Han Yang in the world. The so-called merciless Zhang is just a joke. I heard that he is getting married tomorrow, right? The timing isn't bad. His head is worth 10 kinds of divine objects. He is at Mere Grandmaster Peak, isn't he? Or the divine realm? I'll deal with him later. There's no rush. Let's play a little with him first and see if we can lure Zhang Wangyu over here. But, of course, that's with the assurance that we can kill him at any time. The Capricemo sect leader shook his head slightly. Capricemo sect suffered the most losses, so I'll be the one to do it later. 10 Tiger sect leader nodded his head after a slight pause. Then you should do it. I'll see what happens. After saying a few words, they made a plan. The pace of breathing of the Caprice Mo sect leader's body became gradually stronger, and he no longer concealed his killing intent as he looked at the car that was about to reach a remote place. The time for juggling has come. As he utilized the massive amount of spiritual force in his body and moved his right hand as if he was about to strike, an indifferent voice sounded from the back. "Are you looking for me, Buzz?" The 8 people present felt chills running down their backs for a moment. "Who is it? How did he manage to come up behind us so silently? How come we did not notice anything?" They broke out in a cold sweat and turned around instantly. When they saw who it was, they were all greatly shocked. How come it is you?" The pupils of Caprice Mo sect leader shrank as he thought, Zhang Han, isn't he driving out there? Why wouldn't it be me? Zhang Han's gaze was cold and he had a mocking smile on his face. Then he leaned forward slowly as he said faintly, "I thought you, who are nobody, were going to do it before, but I didn't think you'd put it off until now and even intended to target my daughter. You've been tired of living in this world, haven't you? How arrogant you are." The Caprice Mo sect leader and the others looked like they were about to strike. One of the martial artists at the Earth Peak stage came to his senses and quickly moved forward with an extra sword in his right hand, as if he was about to kill Zhang Han immediately. Under everyone's gazes, Zhang Han thrust his right hand forward, shattering hand. The supernatural power brought by the heavenly demon skin manifested its power for the first time. Buzz. Invisible energy instantly formed in existence like a gravitational field in the surroundings. The martial artist at Earth Peak stage stagnated and had difficulty moving. But this was only a small part of the supernatural power. The existence of domain was at the higher end, which was far from reaching from the current partial influence, and it was only a slight aid to the battle. The sudden suppression made the martial artist at Earth Peak stage somewhat wary. But he never expected that he, who was extremely vigilant, would only feel Zhang Han's existence after he attacked him within a meter. "What? The situation is not good. Get back." The few people including the Caprice Mo sect leader, who were dozens of meters away, were shocked. The martial artist at Earth Peak stage, who was at the forefront, waved his long sword viciously, but the sword light flickered without causing any impact. Swish. His face went pale for a moment, then he turned his head around quickly, looking back. "Headmaster, help." Poof! His body seemed to be swallowed by the space. Moments later, only a faint mist of blood could be seen, which then dissipated into the mundane world. Chapter 792, The Wedding Day. The faces of the Caprice Mo sect leader and his companions became quite distorted. He took only a few seconds to kill the practitioner at the Earth Peak stage. How the FCK could this be possible? Is our opponent Zhang Han at the Grand Master Peak? What is going on? At this moment, the 7 people looked at Zhang Han and became extremely vigilant as they looked around, as if facing an extremely formidable enemy. They were afraid that all members of the Heavenly Knights sect had come out for an attack. If so, it would be difficult for them to fight alone. "Who are you, really?" With a pair of sabers in his hands, the leader of 10 Tiger sect stared at Zhang Han intently. He, the Caprice Mo sect leader and another person were at the Heaven Peak stage. As for the other 4 people, one was at the last stage of the Heaven Realm, 2 were at the middle stage and 1 at the early stage. It was true that the one who died was the least capable. The person at the Earth Peak stage who wanted to have some achievements ended up being killed. "You came to deal with me, but how come you still don't know my name?" Zhang Han kept edging forward and he alone made the others feel the pressure, bit by bit, as if he was some frightening, fierce beast from ancient times. "Zhang Han, how could you? The Caprice Mo sect leader's face turned leaden. There were only a few disciples left in his sect and now one at the Earth Peak stage had died, so he was suffering so much. But having regrets was useless and now his killing intent became even stronger. Although he was shocked, he knew that when the fight began, if the one at the Heaven Peak stage wanted to escape, he could not stop him. Oh! Still keeping a calm expression, Zhang Han continued moving forward for tens of meters and answered lightly, "Didn't Wind Snow School tell you?" "Tell us what?" the leader of Ten Tiger Sect asked. "I can tell you ignorant people that those heaven-earth formations of yours do not work on me at all. I can tell you I have absorbed 69 kinds of divine objects in Wind Snow School and their treasure house has almost been emptied. I can tell you I went to the main sect of Wind Snow School, killed 10 protectors and took away everything from their medicine mountain." "Did they tell you such things?" "Ha ha, when I saw you, I knew they had sent you here to die." "Huh?" The expressions on the Capricemo sect leader and a few of his companions changed vastly. They were so afraid when they thought carefully about what he told them. They felt that these things were probably true. What stage did a person need to reach to kill a practitioner at the Earth Peak stage by only moving his hand? The middle stage, last stage, or peak stage of innateness? In fact, they had excluded the possibility that he was at the middle stage of innateness, for it was still a little difficult for someone at the middle stage of innateness to kill a practitioner at the Earth Peak stage so easily. Then, he was possibly at the last stage or might even be at the peak stage. No matter what stage he was at, they felt that these things he said seemed to be true, at least because when they were in Wind Snow School, they only saw a medicine mountain that had almost been stripped bare. The mountain was not totally empty, but only few high-end spiritual herbs were left. At that time, they felt it was strange. Why were there so few treasures in the medicine mountain of such a powerful Wind Snow School? It turned out that they had been taken away. Considering the strength of Zhang Han and the way he used to break the heaven-earth formation, they thought that he seemed to be capable of doing it. Then they began to wonder if Wind Snow School harbored bad intentions and had truly treated them as cannon fodder. "You," the Capricemo sect leader frowned, ready to open his mouth. But Zhang Han did not give them the chance. Star map. Buzz, buzz, buzz. After breaking through the middle stage of innateness, Zhang Han put the star map skill into use. In an instant, heaven and earth seemed to move around, giving the Capricemo sect leader and his companions a feeling that they were in the starry sky and were surrounded by darkness. Occasionally, they saw twinkling stars, but there were stars in the far distance. The vast starry sky was so mysterious that even the martial artists at the Heaven Peak stage felt quite curious. What secret is hidden in the depths of the starry sky? So, they were quite shocked when they saw such a scene. But this was a fight. "You want to make us go on a psychedelic trip by using this little illusion trick? Break." The Capricemo sect leader flared up and hit the air with his right palm, and a raging fire instantly burned within a radius of 100 meters. The fire was so powerful that it seemed to engulf the space. This caused one universe in the star map to start trembling. It would not be long before the star map was broken. But the short duration was enough. Boom! A thunderbolt formed out of thin air and flashed, illuminating the entire space. In an instant, that powerful coercion rushed toward the people's faces and the tremor in their souls reached a peak, leaving their minds empty. Even the flames made by the Capricemo sect leader had become weaker, as he lost control. In less than 0.1 seconds, the martial artist at the Heaven Peak stage realized it. Shocked and angry, the Capricemo sect leader redirected the flames toward Zhang Han. The star map had little influence on them, but the influence would gradually increase as the stages that the others below their strengths were at decreased from the last stage of the heaven realm down to its middle stage and early stage. In this instant, Zhang Han could do a lot of things. A shattering hand. Buzz. Zhang Han put his supernatural powers into use with all his strength, so that the essence of the energy from the heavenly demon skin was almost used up, and even more than half of the spiritual force and soul sense in his body were consumed. He launched an air-shattering hand move which was unprecedentedly powerful. An invisible palm held the side of the Capricemo sect leader firmly. The martial artists at the Heaven Peak stage were a little shocked and defended themselves. Like the rocks that could not be shattered, they were not harmed. But the others. Puff, 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 puff. These people had just recovered from the coercion of the star map, when they were suddenly attacked by the air-shattering hand. All of them simply vanished into the void as if they fell from the vast starry sky. Clatter. The star map disappeared, giving them the impression that this was an illusion, but it seemed to have a soul-shocking ability, making the watchers astonished. You are at the peak stage of innateness. The Capricemo sect leader was stunned and did not expect their opponent to be that strong. Just now when he killed the practitioner at the Earth peak stage merely by moving his hand, they were still not sure about it, but they were sure now, because apart from the 3 practitioners at the Heaven peak stage, all the others had been killed by him with one move. The Capricemo sect leader and his 2 companions believed that he was surely a practitioner at the peak stage of innateness. Seeing this, Zhang Han's expression remained calm and he threw himself forward in a horizontal fashion. This. The 3 of them looked at each other and hesitated. Do we need to fight or not? Surely, they could not prevent Zhang Han from leaving, as long as the practitioner at the peak stage of innateness was alive. No matter how many people, even if they were 10 Heaven peak stage practitioners, surrounded and attacked him, he could escape if he wanted to. It was almost a certainty that they could not prevent him from escaping. Who would not have a secret weapon to save their lives when people were at their level? At the last stage, they would especially study the escaping secret. At least, they should be able to escape if they could not defeat others. Anyway, where there is life, there is hope. Since there was such a situation, the immortality legend of those at the peak stage of innateness was kept. Of course, nothing is absolutely certain in the world. In fact, some of them died. As for the leaders of the Capricemo sect and 10 Tiger sect, they did want to rebuild their sects, but their opponent was a practitioner at the peak stage of innateness, who could break the great formations of others' sects. Damn, this is a monster. Maybe we can use another method? They glanced at the car behind Zhang Han from the corners of their eyes, somewhat wanting to move. As if he had seen through their minds, Zhang Han couldn't help but laugh. Ha ha. When he laughed, he glanced at the back. Huh? The Capricemo sect leader and his 2 companions looked at each other and their faces turned a little blue. Finally, they gritted their teeth and uttered a word. Go. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The 3 of them left quickly and in a furious mood. 8 people came, but only 3 went back and they did not accomplish anything. Seeing them leave, Zhang Han felt slightly relieved and murmured, I will take your damn lives personally in a short time. Swoosh. Zhang Han glanced indifferently in the direction where the 3 of them had left, then moved and returned to his car. At this time, Meng was still singing. Of course, he had set up an illusion to make the little girl feel as if her papa was still driving in the front. Because Meng was present, Zhang Han did not choose to fight. He could kill those at the middle stage or even last stage of the Heaven realm, but he could not kill those at the peak stage. The strength of those people was almost equivalent to that of an ordinary practitioner at the peak stage of innateness. Zhang Han had a lot of stored power and qualifications. He began to show his strength only when he broke through innateness. He still had a long way to go, but he knew that he was not far away from killing the practitioners at the Heaven peak stage. Why didn't you praise me, Papa? While Zhang Han was thinking about it, Meng's mumblings could be heard from behind. Papa always praised me in the past. It is not too late. Dad is still intoxicated. Meng sang so nicely. He was smiling and joking as they made their way back to Mount New Moon. In another place, the 3 people who managed to escape flew for half an hour, silent all the way, each engrossed in their thoughts. Only when they arrived in northern Xiangjiang did they stop in a forested mountain. But the 3 of them had one thing in common, they all looked a little sullen. Damn. The leader of 10 Tiger sect was so angry that he smashed the trees within our radius of 10 meters and gritted his teeth, saying, Wind Snow School really calculated to the extreme. They deliberately kept such things a secret because they wanted us to test the waters and be cannon fodder. If we succeeded, it was good. If we failed, it didn't matter. If it is like what Zhang Han said, he has absorbed 69 divine objects, it means Wind Snow School has nothing good left. If it had good stuff, would they be willing to take out 10 kinds of divine objects as rewards? Surely, they just want to get things without paying a penny. Another Heaven Peak stage practitioner said with a lingering fear in his heart. He felt that the martial arts society was too dark. There were wolves and tigers in disguise, and these people even used different schemes to trap their allies. We can't tell this to others. The Caprice-Mo sect leader took a few deep breaths to calm himself down and said slowly, "Why should we be cannon fodder? Ha ha, Zhang Han is at the Grandmaster Peak. Oh, no, the peak stage of innateness, but no one knows it now. Why do we have to tell it to others? It's better to let others have a try too. We are not having a good time, so why should they have a good time?" The loss was so much more this time. Both Earth Peak stage practitioners and Heaven Realm martial artists were all the backbones of the sect, and 2 more members of the Caprice-Mo sect were dead, so the situation had really worsened. He wondered that if he continued this game, would he be the last one left in the Caprice-Mo sect? Would the sect be a one-person sect? Would he be a commander without soldiers? Well, we felt the way and lost so many members, but you just want to enjoy the results without doing anything? Impossible. The mentality of the Caprice-Mo sect leader was this: if I have suffered, you have to suffer too, and only then will I feel that it is fair. The other 2 people nodded as soon as they heard these words. Right. He was unkind to me, so I will be unkind to him. We will just pretend we are unaware that Zhang Han is at the Heaven Peak stage, and we will not join this for the time being. The leader of 10 Tiger sect said slowly, "Aren't they going to take action at the wedding tomorrow? Then we'll wait for a while. Maybe in the chaos, we will have a few other opportunities. But they know that the 8 of us fought today and failed, so they will be vigilant. As mentioned before, they might choose to do it when they relax their vigilance during the peaceful days after the wedding day," another old man said. These words silenced the 2 sect leaders. Finally, they said, "What you said is very likely to happen. Now we can only look carefully before taking each step, stay in Xiangjiang, wait for them to take action and then decide. This is the only way." After talking about it, they decided to stay and wait for the opportunity. The fact was similar to what they thought. In the early morning of the next day, the people from several other sects who temporarily lived in Wind Snow School learned the whole news. Nothing happened. So it's a failure? Sure enough. The Heavenly Knights sect was prepared. Should we do it today? Faced with this problem, everyone was silent, thinking about it, and they slowed down the preparations of getting ready to set off. The unknown is scary. They didn't know how many people their opponents had. When Wind Snow School did not participate, they seemed to have lost their backbone and dared not act rashly. No one was interested in their ideas, including Wind Snow School. But many people were happy on this day. Of course, they were mainly from Mountain New Moon and Xiangjiang. Because Zhang Han was the bridegroom and Xian was the beautiful bride today, people from the martial arts world gathered in New Moon Bay, intending to see the excitement, but unfortunately, this glamorous wedding did not seem to be open to the outside world. Even so, it was fine to watch a little excitement from a distance. Mount New Moon was colorful and the weather seemed to cooperate too, as the sky was cloudless. Early in the morning, Meng woke up, clamoring to dress up beautifully. According to the discussion that he and Xian had last night while chatting, Zhang Han was to dress Meng up in a little pink dress, a pair of crystal sandals and beautiful hairpins, and also to tie her hair in a simple ponytail to reveal her exquisite little face. Xian even said that the little princess might steal some of her mother's limelight at the wedding. So in the morning, Zhang Han dressed Meng with great care. When people gathered in the lobby on the first floor of the castle, Meng was surrounded by Rong Jiali, Zhang Wenyu, Zhang Li and many others. In a while, Zhang Han would bring his people to pick up the bride, and Meng would follow Zhang Li and wait until the wedding ceremony to be the bearer of the bouquets and wedding rings. I said, live streaming is impossible today, How can it be possible to watch the goddess's wedding? Don't think about it, brother, it's not possible. Forget it and let me go and check it out in a while. If they allow people from the media at the wedding, I will record a video for you. Don't send red envelopes anymore. Brothers, stop. I'm really busy. Finally, I have a chance and I have to take it because the number of my fans hasn't grown for a long time. I'll shoot a short video later. If I succeed, I'll show you. Sun Donging walked into the hall while playing with his mobile phone. People in his fan groups knew that Sun Donging worked at Ziyu Entertainment and knew Ziyan. Today was Ziyan and Han Yang's wedding, which had made the entire network explode as all the top searches were on this topic. Sun Donging, who had recently been very busy shooting short comedy videos, took a few days off and came to Mount New Moon early in the morning. He was thinking about doing something to Meng Meng. Ahem, it was nothing but shooting a video. Last time Sun Donging shot a video about Meng Meng and its effect was gratifying. Now the effect was long gone, so he came here again. Brother Han, you are so handsome, you are so handsome today. Congratulations, Brother Han. Sun Donging went to Zhang Han first and congratulated him joyfully. After getting Zhang Han's answer, he whispered, Brother Han, Meng Meng is so cute, in fact, want shoot a video? Go ahead. Zhang Han was in a very good mood, so when he met with such a small request, he just agreed directly. Haha, thank you, Brother Han. Sun Donging looked surprised as if he had received the order of the emperor. He walked toward Meng Meng and said to Zhang Li and all the young people, come on, let me pass. Today, I'm going to take a video of this cute and beautiful little princess. What are you doing? Brother Han agreed. In the end, Sun Donging murmured instructions to Meng Meng as she sat on the sofa that was placed at the side. After a while, Meng Meng waved at the camera and said with a smile, well, hello everyone, I am. It seems I shouldn't say my name. So, Meng Meng cutely mouthed at the camera and then continued, well, welcome everyone, please follow my big brother's WeChat public account Da Wangzhang. No, it is Dan Wangzhang, there are so many surprises. The shooting ended after she said a few words and Zhang Li could not help but roll her eyes at Sun Donging. You are using our Meng Meng to do advertising? Let me tell you something, next time, even if my brother agrees, I will not. If you keep showing off, I'll ask Little Hai how to beat you up. Well, Lilai, if you ask me to beat him, I promise I will not kill him. Liang Hao nodded solemnly. It made Sun Donging's mouth tremble. Okay, I can't afford to offend. Truly, laughter and jokes resounded in the main atmosphere in the hall at this time. Rong Jiali, Rong Jiaxin, Wang Zanping, Wang Ming, Zhang Guangyu and all the others stood in front of Zhang Han. Han is so handsome today, our bridegroom is the boss today. Rong Jiaxin gave Zhang Han the thumbs up. Right, my son is so handsome and he got married in the blink of an eye. Rong Jiali pursed her lips, adjusted Zhang Han's tie and said softly, you are not only my son but also little Yan's husband and Meng Meng's father, you need to be nice to them in the future. These days I've found that little Yan treats you quite attentively, so don't let her down. Also, now you are powerful, although in the martial arts world, there are a few non-monogamous situations, but our family does not allow that. These words made Zhang Han so speechless that his forehead even turned a little dark and he said helplessly, I know, mother, don't worry, the situation you mentioned will not happen. I believe him. Zhang Guangyu said with a smile, good son, your dad is happy about your achievements. Today is your wedding day, so all of us must be happy, that's it. As he said, he hugged Rong Jiali gently because her eyes turned a little red. This was a complicated emotion. Although her son was married and they even had a granddaughter, the wedding still gave her a different feeling. Jiali, don't shed tears, just laugh discreetly. If Ziyan's parents see you like this, they will probably be unhappy. They are not crying when they marry off their daughter, but you are crying when getting a daughter-in-law," Wang Zanping said with a smile. "I see, I'm not crying." In the lively atmosphere, Rong Jiali smiled soon and patted Zhang Han's arm, saying, "It's almost 8 o'clock, go pick up the bride." "Okay." Zhang Han nodded. Under the eyes of everyone here, he smiled and strode out of the castle gate. As soon as he left the castle, he could see a fleet of luxury cars lined up from here to the foot of the mountain, but he could not see the end of it. Chapter 793, Picking Up the Bride. "Master." "Oh, no, today's groom, please get in the car." Zhao Feng laughed at the forefront of the group. Even if the members of the security group, as well as the members of the Wang family, the Zi family, and many others each drive a car, there would be more cars left. It was really like a flood of luxury cars. Zhao Feng had also made many preparations for this wedding. Without informing anyone, others scrambled to contact him one after another. As to the Yi family that had soared to fame because they were remotely related to Zhang Han, Yi Han, who used to be the leader of the Eastern District, had completely gotten rid of the underground forces. He sighed with emotion that the situation at the time was really bad. In fact, for a man like him, was difficult to become a decent man again. However, thanks to Zhang Han Yang, everything had been going smoothly in his life. His business was getting bigger and bigger, and his father also became the head of the family, in charge of all the family business. The family's assets were already several times of the previous. Fortunately, Yi Han had the sense to repay the society by engaging in charity activities after he had made some money from his investment in entities. That made the authorities sort of gratified. When he learned about Zhang Han's wedding, he contacted Zhao Feng directly. He offered to provide funds for the entire wedding, but the other party didn't need his funds at all. In the end, Yi Han proposed to provide 120 luxury cars to enhance the spectacularness of the wedding. That Zhao Feng agreed. Apart from that, Luo Shan, the chairman of Saint Kindergarten in Luo family, asked Zhao Feng in person and chatted with him for a while. At last, he was also assigned to provide the Luo family's motorcade. As soon as the news came out, all kinds of big shots followed suit. Zhao Feng was stunned by this. It seemed that the line of the motorcade was too long, and there were so many cars in Mount New Moon that there would be some left even if each person drove one. Fortunately, those people had also sent drivers there. All the cars were tied with red ribbons, and the one at the forefront was a limited edition Rolls-Royce. At this time, Zhao Feng was standing beside the car, ready to welcome the groom. The drivers were all dressed in black suits, which made them look very imposing. However, Zhang Han glanced at the motorcade and rested his eyes on a supercar at the rear. "I'll drive by myself," Zhang Han remarked nonchalantly and made his way to that car. "Okay, boss." Xuyong laughed out loud and handed the car key to Zhang Han. The car was a limited version convertible Ferrari, which was quite expensive. Its black appearance looked noble and dignified, and the heart-shaped bouquet decorated on the engine hood added a touch of happiness to the car. The car was brand new. Xuyong had bought it only for a few days. He was the president of the security group. One day, he spotted this limited version sports car and bought it right away, but he didn't expect that it would come in handy on today's occasion. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Zhang Han stepped on the accelerator, deliberated for a moment, and drove forward slowly. There were luxury cars lined up on both sides of the road. Zhang Han was driving in the middle of the road. Behind him, Zhao Feng and others quickly got in the cars. With 2 cars a rank, a long line of cars came after Zhang Han's car. Fortunately, the road was wide enough, otherwise, there would be a traffic jam. The cars lined up behind Zhang Han's, end to end, and slowly drove down the mountain. Even Zhang Han was surprised to see that there were so many cars forming such a long line. The cars almost lined up from Mount New Moon to the downtown of New Moon Bay. "Master, there is a sign in front of us, just go in the direction as the sign shows," Zhao Feng yelled from behind. "Okay." Zhang Han responded and took the lead to New Moon Bay. At this time, there were many drivers in New Moon Bay who were complaining. How can this road be blocked? I'm going to be late for work. My company is on this street. Where do you want me to park my car? What's going on? Taking a detour, it will take me half an hour more if I take the other path. All the major intersections were temporarily closed, which made many people who were in a hurry to go to work very dissatisfied. Although they complained, they couldn't do anything about it. Thus, they had to take a detour. On the main street, the stationed government officials every several feet. People were also passing through the main street in an orderly manner. But the people walking on both sides of the street were getting curious about this. Why did they close the road? Is some big shot coming to visit New Moon Bay? No way. Even if that's the case, they wouldn't have shut down the road. I figure it should be because of a certain mysterious mission. How could the mission be any mysterious with all this? Are you kidding me? It's a given. There must be some event going on. It's such a display of splendor. I wonder what the event is. Hey, wait, I see, it's the motorcade for a wedding. A girl in her 20s in the crowd shouted in surprise, look over there, the motorcade is coming. Oh my god, I can't see the end of the line. Wow, this is so extravagant, they even closed the road for this. Swish. Many pairs of eyes proved backward, when the people saw the endless motorcade coming from the distance. They were all shocked. The leading one was a convertible sports car. The driver was a man in a suit and a pair of sunglasses, which made them feel refreshed. Good heavens, it's a wedding motorcade, so spectacular. Take photos? No, I'm going to take a short video. He's so handsome. Is the driver the groom? He's so young. Wait, isn't it Xian's wedding today? Is this her motorcade? Look at the car plate number. There are cars of the Luo family, the Chu family, and the Yi family in the Eastern District. Are they really the cars to pick up Xian? Xian's rumored boyfriend, Zhang Han Yang, is in the entertainment field. How can these giants care about those in the entertainment field? Under their astonished gazes, the motorcade slowly approached. The crowd stood at the side and watched the scene. Cars passed by one after another like a long dragon. After watching for 10 whole minutes, they finally saw the motorcade slowly disappear from sight. Go ahead. After that, the officials allowed the people to cross the road. Only then did they cross the road as they intended to before. But suddenly, someone found that none of these officials had left. The motorcade is going back here? Someone asked, but didn't get any answer. Holy cow. As they aren't leaving, the motorcade will definitely come back later. Wouldn't we be able to see the bride then? I wonder if it'll be Xian. Whoa, I'm going to wait here. I'll ask for leave at the office. I won't go to work this morning. There was a racket among the crowd, but most of them eventually went to work, and only a few of them who were really curious stayed to watch the scene. Behind the wheel, Zhang Han followed the signs beside the road and made a smooth journey. Every time the motorcade went to a crowded place, it caused people to scream out of excitement. Hearing these screams, the corners of Zhang Han's mouth arched a little. It was not because of vanity, but because he was thinking about Xian. Will she be exceptionally beautiful today? As though in a hurry to see the beautiful bride, Zhang Han's foot resting on the gas pedal involuntarily stamped. Zoom. The car was getting faster and faster. They passed through New Moon Bay, the southern district, and came to the western district, and parked on a wide street. This was the place where the Macro Hotel was located. Of course, the hotel was of the best kind. The entire hotel had been booked, except for a few staff members. The rest were all their own people. Let's go. Go get the bride. Come on. After the security group got out of the car, they let out a few cackles, including Zuyong and Zhaofeng, who were usually calm and collected. The wedding process was basically the normal one. The best men had to go through a ton of challenges before they could send the groom upstairs to pick up the bride. Among them, Instructor Liu was the fastest. He took the lead and didn't stop until he almost overtook Zhang Han. He tagged Zhang Han along with a fierce look on his face. Listen up, the people inside. I'll beat whoever stops the groom from picking up the bride today. What he didn't know was that at his words, the corner of Zhang Han's mouth trembled a few times as he almost burst out laughing. A large group of people followed Zhang Han and rushed into the hotel. There were not many people in the spacious lobby, but the pretty figure standing in the middle, who was wearing a leather suit and holding a leather whip in her right hand, gave Instructor Liu a big fright. At first, he was pleasantly surprised, but then he was a little scared. Damn it, seems that things have turned lethal. Instructor Liu stepped back lightly and retreated to the center of the crowd. Then he lowered his head slightly, with an expression that he didn't know who that woman was. Zhao Feng, Xuyong, and the others seemed to have cottoned on the situation. Ha 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 ha, Captain Jiang, long time no see. Captain Jiang is even prettier. Captain Jiang, are you trying to stop us? In the face of these greetings, Jiang Yanlan curled her lips and smiled, but then she immediately gave a straight face. HMPH, cut the crap, I'll tell you, I represent the bride's family today, all of you had better behave yourself. Yes, yes, yes. Zhao Feng said with every appearance of support, we will behave, just tell us what you want. Well, Jiang Yanlan looked at Instructor Liu casually and finally fixed her eyes on him. The bride is on the 9th floor, so you have to pass 9 trials. I'm the first trial, which should be quite easy to get through. Anyway, I've been back for a while, and my hands are itchy. Then I'll give you one of us to let you have a good beat. Zhao Feng, Xuyong, Elder Meng, and Ahu looked at one another. Ahu suddenly shouted, throw him out. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Several people grabbed Instructor Liu in an instant and tried their best to toss him forward. Ah, you bunch of cheaters! Instructor Liu shrieked. When his body fell to the ground, it seemed that, he was in the arms of the beautiful woman. He took advantage of the opportunity to make the very powerful move that Zhang Han had taught him. Like a loach, he slipped into Jiang Yanlan's arms. Oh, you smell so good. Instructor Liu looked fascinated. That made Jiang Yanlan's expression freeze. Zhao Feng and others were also stunned. FCK, Instructor Liu is really courting death. As soon as Captain Jiang came back, Instructor Liu showed his true colors. He is so cheap. You. Jiang Yanlan raised the whip in her right hand. Crack, 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 crack. Ah. As usual, the scene was once again staged. Zhao Feng and others were all used to it. Even Zhang Han ignored it and went straight to the stairs. There were a few people guarding the elevator, preventing them from using it. Of course, even if they tried to stop Zhang Han, they had no odds against him. As long as Zhang Han wanted, he could just fly up. But he couldn't do it today. On the day of his wedding, how could Zhang Han bring himself to smartly sidestep the traditional protocols? Jiang Yanlan did not pay attention to their departure and simply focused on beating Instructor Liu. Little BTCH, one day in the future, I will definitely give you a good beat in bed. Instructor Liu was furious. He raised his head and refuted with incredible courage. As a result, with a bang, he got himself another black eye. The 3 staff at the reception were dumbfounded. Ah, there's a fight. God, what should we do? Should we call the police? How did they get in a fight? That beauty hit him so hard. If it goes on like this, will that man be beaten to death? It can't be. After all, it's a wedding today. They can't get anybody killed. But that man's howls are really loud. After getting up to the 2nd floor, Zhang Han saw that the enemies were coming aggressively. With Zhishio as the leader, nearly 30 people of the younger generation in the Zhi family were blocked Zhang Han's way at the stairs. Brother-in-law. Oh, no, no. Zhishio quickly retracted what she said and corrected. You're not my brother-in-law yet. It's the wedding today. Well, it's not easy to get through us. I don't know if you've prepared for this. If there are not enough red envelopes, we won't give way. Ha ha ha. Zhang Han grinned and said, okay, everyone has a share. He took out stacks of red envelopes from the bag Zhang handed over. The red envelope is not bulging though, there are bank cards in them. How much is in the cards? Oh, each of them has 1 million yuan. I barely talked to you guys all this time, but I like your family very much. These are just a little token of my appreciation. Wow, brother-in-law, you're so generous. Zhixia was a little surprised. They didn't expect their brother-in-law to be so generous. They thought that he would give each of them 10,000 or 20,000 yuan at most. After all, there were so many relatives there. But they never knew that Zhang Han gave each of them a bank card directly. Although they were all from a rich family, they didn't have much allowance. The bank cards were enough to cover their expenses for quite a long time. Following the lead of Zhixia, the others also started laughing with joy. Brother-in-law, how generous you are. The second trial was also to get past. Zhang Han secretly stuffed 5 red envelopes, each containing a bank card, into Zhixia's hands. Zhixia was a little uncomfortable to take so much money, but she didn't seem to be any slow in pocketing the red envelopes. With all these relatives' blessings, Zhang Han and the others went up to the 3rd floor. There were more than a dozen people guarding the 3rd floor, who were led by Zilong and Zihu. What shall we start here? Zhang Han asked with a smile. Well, we don't want to make things difficult for you. Zilong touched his chin and said, look, when you went to the Zi family last time, Zhao Feng and the others were still the newbies in cultivating, but now, they are almost as powerful as us. Well, we won't ask for too much. How about give us a new cultivation method? Well, we also want to go to the God Realm to enjoy the view. Ha ha, deal. Zhang Han stretched out his right hand and said, don't resist, relax. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Several energy fluctuations emerged in the minds of Zilong and Zihu, which evolved into a whole set of cultivation methods. The cultivation methods given to them were of 2 different kinds. Of course, the others also obtained a new cultivation method, but as the others were at a relatively low level, Zhang Han gave all of them the same method. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In addition to the cultivation methods, Zhang Han took out more than 300 low-grade crystals to them, and most of them were handed to Zilong and Zihu. These should be enough for you to make a breakthrough, you know, excess is just as bad as deficiency. When you use up all these, I'll give you some more later, Zhang Han said with a smile. These are already enough. The 2 elders were a little embarrassed. They wanted to observe the cultivation methods right now, so they waved to Zhang Han and said, go upstairs quickly, Ziyan misses you big time. Sure. In all the cheers, Zhang Han soon went up to the 4th floor. In this way, they broke through all the obstacles along the way. In less than half an hour, they arrived at the 9th floor. There were only 2 people on this floor. They were Ziqian and Xixiniu. Xixiniu looked elated. She was a typical mother-in-law who liked her son-in-law more the longer she spent time with him. Ziqian, however, was not in a good mood. He looked a little hesitant and lost. Looking at Zhang Han, he sighed with emotion. My younger brother and sister-in-law were supposed to be here, but I couldn't help it. It's not difficult for you to get through this trial. I don't know what to ask for, but now I want to hear what you think. Okay. Zhang Han nodded. With a serious look and sincere eyes, he slowly began. In fact, when I first learned that I had a daughter, that's to say, when I first met Meng, I was sort of dumbfounded. I didn't know why all of a sudden I had a daughter, but blood is thicker than water, and my lovely daughter made me accept her and love her very quickly. Perhaps it's because of my disposition. I didn't take Ziyan seriously at first. I even thought that if we were not together, I would still fight for Meng's custody, but then I realized that love always comes inadvertently, and she attracted me all the time. She powered through a very hard time. She was pregnant for 10 months, gave birth to the baby alone, and took care of her for several years. That's something. Now she is a part of my life. I will love and care for her at all costs. This is what I have kept in mind. Silence fell. The entire hall sank into dead silence. Ziqiang's eyes were reddened, and so did Xuanhuan's. Come on in, Yan has suffered a lot over the years. It's my fault. I'm very pleased to see her find such a good husband. Zhang Han, thank you. Now, go pick up your bride. Ziqiang patted Zhang Han on the shoulder. Zhang Han smiled gently and didn't say anything more. He went straight to the room at the far end of the corridor. Ziqiang and Xuanhuan also left. They had to go to Mount New Moon to prepare for the rest of the ceremony in advance. When Zhang Han pushed the door open, the room was very lively. The team headed by Zhixia was there again. Hey? Did you guys cheat? Ahu asked in a booming voice. How did you get up here? By the elevator, of course. Zhixia snorted and said, we're not making trouble here, brother-in-law. If you want to take my sister away, first of all, you have to find her high heels. By the way, don't cheat, don't use your abilities, you can only look for them with normal means. Okay. Zhang Han placed a soft look on Xian. Xian also looked at him with a smile. Don't get all the goggle eyes on. Zhixia pushed Zhang Han and said, get started now, we haven't eaten anything this morning, so we're all hungry, waiting to go to the feast. Ha ha. Zhang Han couldn't help laughing. He moved his eyes away from the bride and began to search in the room. He looked round the bed, the sofa, the chair, the tea table, the dressing table, and the bathroom. Zhang Han searched every inch of the room, but he still couldn't find the high heels. Wheeze. Seeing Xian and Zhixia laughing happily, Zhang Han looked around again. It's too difficult. Zhao Feng said, give him some clues. According to the traditions, if you want clues, you have to show your sincerity. We're not the ones who hid shoes, it's the little brother and sister, you'd better ask them. Zhixia pointed at the two youngsters about 13 or 14. Ahem, little brother, little sister. Zhang Han stretched out his right hand holding two red envelopes with bank cards in them and said, can you give me a heads up? What's this? The little boy pointed at the red envelope. It seemed that there was no cash inside. It's a red envelope with a bank card in it, Zhang Han replied with a smile. Oh, thank you, big brother. The little boy took the red envelope and handed the other one to the little girl next to him. Then he said, we put the high heels. Oh, wait a minute. The little girl interrupted him in a hurry. They only asked us to give them a clue, not the exact location. How can you be so silly? Ah, I forgot. The conversation between the two made everyone present laugh out loud, and even the staff in charge of recording the video couldn't help smirking. Not on the ground. In the end, he only said 4 words. Oh, that's to say, they're up in the sky. Zhang Han looked up and searched for 2 minutes. Suddenly, he saw the shadow of high heels on the chandelier. Oh, my, it's so high, it must be Zilong or one of his guys who put them there. Swoosh. Zhang Han jumped gently, took off the high heels, and then quickly came to the bed. My beautiful bride, please stretch out your foot. I'm here to help you put on your shoes. Chapter 794, When the Rainbow Bridge Rises. Call me Queen. Xian was a little naughty, which was rare to see. She stretched out her 2 white feet. But when Zhang Han was about to hold them, she quickly withdrew them back and made this remark that made the others amused despite themselves. Ha! Zhang Han immediately laughed. He bowed slightly, stretched his right hand downward to make a relatively gentlemanly gesture. At the same time, he said, my dear queen, I'm here to help you put on your shoes. This time, Xian stretched out her feet obediently. She blinked her beautiful eyes and looked at Zhang Han affectionately. From her expression, one could tell that she was happy. At this time, the 14-year-old girl from the Zi family jumped out. Well, I saw someone else's wedding on the internet. Before the groom put shoes on for the bride, the groom kissed the bride's feet. Huh? The people around all shot a look at her. Some of them felt that it was inappropriate, but some didn't. Among them, many people in the Zi family felt that this was not becoming of the groom. After all, Zhang Han was powerful and was in a high position. It would be a bit embarrassing for him to kiss a woman's feet in public. Well, this is. Even Xian opened her mouth to reject this idea. But to everyone's surprise, Zhang Han just chuckled. He raised Xian's foot with his right hand, kissed it gently on the back of her foot, and then said, "Your Highness, please put on your shoes." Xian bit her lips and smiled. With Zhang Han's help, she put on her shoes. Then Zhang Han bent over, and Xian leaned on his back. At this time, she was wearing a white wedding dress. It didn't look special, it was just an ordinary wedding dress with a delicate design. As Zhang Han was a relatively potent martial artist in the martial arts world, everyone thought that he would prepare some special events, but up to now, the wedding was just carried out according to the ordinary procedures. Even so, no one had second opinions. Regardless of whether the audience was entertained, the most important thing was that it was their wedding. The others also sincerely wished the couple a happy marriage. Although they already had a 4-year-old daughter, they could still be considered newlyweds. In some regions, the tradition required a member of the bride's family to carry the bride off her house and into the groom's car. In Zhang Han's case, there were no such rules, and everything was more casual. After carrying Xian on his back, he slowly walked to the stairs, followed by a large group of people. The 9th floor, the 8th floor, the 7th floor. When they finally got down to the 1st floor, everyone couldn't help laughing as they saw Instructor Liu arguing with Jiang Yanlan with dark circles under his eyes. The more he was beaten, the more willing he was to lean over toward the bully. "Let's go, let's go. We succeeded in picking up the bride. Get in the car." The group soon left the hotel. Zhang Han carried the beautiful bride on his back and came to the sports car. He placed Xian in the passenger seat, got in the car, and started the engine. "We're going back home." Zhang Han turned his head to Xian and smiled. For some reason, Xian seemed a little shy. She kept looking at Zhang Han with affection in her eyes. After giving him a nod, she asked, Meng didn't throw any tantrum last night, did she?" "No. HMPH, she's no longer clingy to me." "Well, how can that be? It's just that we spent a lot of time playing games yesterday. Knowing that today is our wedding, she went to bed early. She is very looking forward to going on stage with flowers and wedding rings today." Zhang Han couldn't help laughing. Even at this time, he still found Xian cute. Looking at her curvy figure, Zhang Han felt a little turned on. Recently, he had been busy with cultivation. It seems that he hadn't had deep communication with her for quite a long time. "She is okay when I'm not with her. But when you're not there, she'll make trouble, and I can't make her behave no matter how hard I try. I won't refute what you said. After all, she is my daughter. Look, you're just arrogant as you were, HMPH. Ha ha." As the two of them chatted and laughed, they drove back to Mount New Moon. Along the way they came. The dragon-like motorcade looked quite impressive. As soon as the cars started moving, Zhang Han sensed 6 waves of energy fluctuation. In the air hundreds of meters high, there were many martial artists at the Heaven Peak stage, and they did not hide their auras at all. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In an instant, there were 3 more shots of auras at the Heaven Peak stage. They were Dongchen, First Elder, Third Elder, and the 3 peak heads. The 2 sides seemed to be about to confront each other. However, after a few words, the 2 sides followed the motorcade and flew slowly. They were escorting the cars below. Zhang Han also detected their conversation. It turns out that they're members of the authorities. Zhang Han smiled slightly. He didn't expect that the government of Xiangjiang would give him such a privilege. In fact, they were also making their stand. The government doesn't mind how you fight in the worldlet, or what grievances and what kind of war you're having, but in the secular world, in Xiangjiang, you have to behave yourselves. General Zhang is in Xiangjiang, so the government won't sit by and do nothing. It was really a bluff to invite 6 masters at the Heaven Peak stage to escort the motorcade. Although the number of top-notch experts in the Wind Snow School and the other sects was much larger than this, they did not dare to make too much of a sensation under this circumstance. They drove all the way back to New Moon Bay. Zhang Han's car was in the lead. If any martial artist above the God Realm dared to attack, Zhang Han would be altered at once, for there were 8 cameras hidden in Zhang Han's car facing the void at all angles, and they were capturing everything without any blind spots. But the passers-by didn't know that. They were still wondering why there was no video camera on the groom's car. Anyway, on both sides of the sealed land, the crowd was very dense. Most of them were from the local martial arts society, and there were also many who came from other places, including those at the obvious strength stage to the earthly city realm. Among them, those few ordinary people were stunned when they saw this scene. Gee, holy cow, that's really Xian. God, this is really Xian's wedding. Hurry up, record a video. FCK, if we post this on the internet, it'll absolutely go viral. The video of the motorcade that I just been posted has already become a hit. If people know this is Xian's wedding, I don't dare to imagine how wild this is going to be. This is Xian's wedding. So, the man behind the wheel is the famous talent Han Yang. He is not only a brilliant composer and lyricist but also outstanding in movies. There were murmurs of discussion everywhere, and many people began to shoot short videos. Well, no one stopped them. Zhang Han and Xian didn't want to hide anything, so it didn't matter if the public knew about their wedding. Xian even thought that it would be good to let the world know how happy she was. She had just been talking about this with Zif last night. If Xian was still working for the Royal Entertainment Company, the company probably wouldn't let her get married. If she insisted so, she wouldn't be able to do it openly, because that would damage her popularity. But now, that no longer mattered. She could do whatever she wanted. This was the freedom brought by her husband. He was strong, loving, gentle, and considerate. Sitting in the passenger seat, Xian felt as sweet as if her heart had been coated with honey. The happy smile on Xian's delicate face was captured by many people's mobile phones. There was no doubt that this was a wedding that was being watched by many people. At this time, on top of many houses on both sides of the streets also stood a large number of people. This is quite a wedding. Yi Longyuan was alone. He stared at the motorcade below and carefully looked up in the sky. Finally, he fixed his eyes on Zhang Han again. He sneered and said to himself, when the divine list is released, I, Yi Longyuan, will come to take your life. Swoosh. He was not interested in watching it anymore, because he knew that the day would not get any eventful anyway. Seeing that Yi Longyuan was leaving, a cold laugh came from a distance. Ha! Needless to guess, he already knew that it was Shi Fenwu, that idiot. Yi Longyuan didn't bother to talk to him. The difference in strength would soon be publicized on the divine list. He would rather make his achievements more magnificent than waste his time arguing with Shi Fenwu. It seems that they won't make the move today. Long Yi, the talented disciple of the Wind Snow School, narrowed his eyes and said to himself, as expected, they are prepared. The Caprice Mo sect leader and the others were supposed to take action yesterday, but I haven't heard any updates from them. Are they also going to observe the situation, or are they going to let the other sects start the fight and wait to catch the weak? No matter what their plan is, it will fail in the end. It won't be wise to kill Zhang Han Yang until the divine list comes out. Now the news of the release of the divine list had spread out, and many people were preparing for it. The fight for the new immortal king was definitely going to be a bloody one. Some even speculated that the divine list might be created to wear down the high-level martial artists in the martial arts world. A few people knew that it made some sense. The world lit had not come out for several years for its quiet development. Nowadays, the martial arts world was in turmoil and wars were breaking out everywhere. Perhaps, because it was too chaotic, once the divine list came out, the dispute would be narrowed down to a small circle. It could also be regarded as a clever means. The other martial artists also looked sideways, when they saw the horrible fluctuations in the air. They had no intention to make the move. Even the heads of the Capricemo sect and the Ten Tiger sect, who were hiding in the distance, were a little shocked. They're so well prepared. Even if the Wind Snow School is attacking, they can still fend them off. The Capricemo sect leader frowned. There are not many remote places along the way. If they fight, they can stop them, as long as they enter the city and fight. Even if they are as strong as the Wind Snow School, I'm afraid they will suffer a catastrophe the next day. Yeah? The head of the Ten Tiger sect took a deep breath and said, "The Black-White Palace never sends more than one disciple to the secular world. The only time they showed up in a large number was when they went to destroy a large sect. It's too terrible. It's detached from the world. If things aren't grave enough, no one will ignore the rules of the secular official. No one would care about their disputes if they kept it in the martial arts world, but if they did cross the line, many people would not be tolerant anymore." The higher one stood, the better he knew that there were some great terrors hidden in this world. They won't show up today. According to the plan, we should stay in Xiangjiang. When they take action, we'll find an opportunity to do our thing. In the end, as the Capricemo sect leader said that, the three of them went off. When they left, there was a figure half hidden in the sky. He said with a faint smile, "Good, good, the little guy has grown so fast, he looks strong, maybe he'll have a chance to condense the golden elixir in the secular world and create his invincible legend." Ha ha ha. With a chuckle, the man made to conceal himself again and take off. However, as soon as he started moving, his expression froze. "You found me? That's amazing." The old man was stunned. 3 seconds later, he turned around and flew away. Zhang Han, who was driving on the ground, also chuckled. "What's it, my dear husband? What made you giggling?" Xian asked curiously. "Nothing, I just saw a funny guy." "Who is it?" His name is Ui, and he is the person we went to Xiang to look for." "Oh, is he the head of the Standby sect you mentioned?" "Ha ha ha, yes, that's him." "Where is he? Since you've spotted him, why don't you invite him to our wedding?" "His is gone." "Then why didn't I see him? He was in the sky just now." "Oh, is he the kind of person who can fly, a very powerful martial artist, above the god realm?" "Yes, he is very powerful. He is the best I have seen so far. In the current world, he is almost invincible in the martial arts world." "Ah, he is that awesome." Xian was a little surprised and stuck out her tongue. "Of course. He is also a little cunning. Just now, he deliberately showed his figure. Maybe he was warning some people or giving me some hint. But no matter what kind of situation it was, I owe him this one." Zhang Han nodded. With his soul sense, he had noticed the head of the Capricemo sect and the other two. He also sensed Shi Fengyu and Yilong Yuan, some martial artists in the Earth realm, and many in the God realm. Moreover, he knew there were 2 people at the peak of the Heaven realm in the Wind Snow School standing with 6 cultivators in the Heaven peak stage. There was no doubt that they were also looking for opportunities. But when they saw Dong Chen's team, these people knew they had no chance at all. As for Ui, he was an acquaintance of Zhang Han's grandfather. He had come here to protect Zhang Han as well. If the Wind Snow School dared to make trouble, they would have to face a very terrible situation. "We're almost home." Looking at Mount New Moon from a distance, Xian perked up. "In fact, you should ask if I prepared you any surprises," Zhang Han said with a smile. Well, today is our wedding, my prince. Have you prepared a surprise for me?" "Your Highness, yes, of course." Giggling, the two laughed happily. This was the time that belonged to the two of them only. There were many people coming and going on the mountains around Mount New Moon. The forces of the martial arts world were here to watch the fun. Some of them had even prepared melon seeds and drinks in advance. Although there were numerous talents in the martial arts world and Zhang Han Yang's brilliance had been outshone, he was still very well known in Xiangjiang. "You're back. Look at the hustle and bustle. Zhang Han Yang's wedding is really grand. I was wondering if we'd see something juicy." The motorcade slowly approached the castle and stopped neatly before it. At this time, Zhang Han smiled at Xian. "Wait for me." Whoosh! He leapt and raced quickly to the dense forest at the back of the mountain. Xian was a little confused, but she knew that the surprise might come soon. "Hello, everyone. Yes, it's me, your old Liu. I'm the host of today's wedding." Instructor Liu, with dark circles under his eyes, announced on the stage. "Ah?" Jiang Yanlan was dazed at once. "Why didn't you tell me that you were the host?" If she had known this earlier, she would not have punched him in the eyes. The black eyes he was sporting seemed a little inappropriate. "Stop fooling around," Xuyong said helplessly. "I am the host today, okay? Ahem, that'll do." Instructor Liu smiled awkwardly and stopped talking. His boss had already arrived at the edge of the dense forest. Right now, on the lawn of the back mountain, there were a stage, tables, chairs, flowers, sound devices, and so on. It was like a beautiful wedding scene outside the house. But that was not the most important part of the show. "My queen, I once said that I would give you a grand, beautiful wedding. Maybe this is not the grandest and the most beautiful wedding, but in my eyes, you are the most beautiful bride. I've been wanting to go to the wedding hall with you as soon as possible, my bride. The show is about to begin. Be ready." Zhang Han was not the talkative type, but on certain occasions, he wouldn't be stingy with his words and gentleness. After saying this, everyone fell silent. Zhang Han also clapped his hands. Drip. The sound of rain rang throughout Mount New Moon. Splash. The Thunder Yang tree turned crystal blue, resonating with the Thunder Yang flower and the Thunder Yang grass. Waves of energy began to burst out. Zoom. In front of each of the newlyweds, a colorful cloud suddenly appeared. The clouds began to stretch and turned into a rainbow, like a bridge connecting the two. On the ground, hundreds of flowers blossomed with brilliance and gorgeous colors. "Wow, it's so beautiful." Zixia, Zif, Wang Ya, and other women were all fascinated at the sight. Even Zhao Feng and his men were intoxicated in the view. When the rainbow bridge was formed, Zhang Han and Xian slowly floated into the air, following the arc of the rainbow and getting closer and closer to each other. Whoosh! As if a breeze was blowing, Xian's wedding dress suddenly became 2 meters, 3 meters, 5 meters, and 10 meters long. The wedding dress gave off a faint glow and fluttered with the wind. Against her delicate appearance, she looked like a princess in a fairy tale. Squeak, squeak, squeak. On the way up, the energy petals rose from the ground. When Zhang Han confessed his love, he set fireworks all over the sky. But today, there were flowers all over the sky. There were big and small bouquets in the sky. Some were 10-meter wide roses, and some were 5-meter long lotus flowers. The flowers fluttered around the rainbow bridge. The sea of flowers was stunning, but it still couldn't compete with the brilliance of Xian and Zhang Han. At the same time, waves rose around Mount New Moon. It was as if there were electronic screens in all directions. A real sea with shining waves was shown on the screens. Suddenly, a yacht appeared. Zhang Han and Xian were on it, both of whom looked delighted. The next picture came up. It was the one that Zhang Han was surfing with Xian in his arms. The picture kept changing, displaying all kinds of romance the two had experienced. For a while, Xian was fascinated by the scene. She didn't know why it was so magical. She only knew that the view was magnificent. She was touched, very happy, and deeply in love. Gradually, the new couple approached each other and Zhang Han held her hands. "My husband." Xian called out softly. "My wife." Zhang Han smiled and said, "It's time for us to propose a toast." He turned to look at the castle. Splatter! The rainbow bridge branched out, extending towards the castle. Hand in hand, the two of them slowly flew to the castle under everyone's gaze. When they arrived at the square inches front of the door, the colorful flowers in the air slowly gathered into a bunch of roses hundreds of meters long. The bouquet kept rotating and shrinking. When it reached Zhang Han, it had become a normal-sized bouquet. Dong Chen and the others were dumbfounded at this. What the hell? How did the illusory energy become real things? Who can tell me why? The several martial artists who were at the Heaven Peak stage looked at one another. From the look in the others' eyes, they suddenly found that their outlook of the world seemed to have been smashed. As the light dissipated, Mount New Moon returned to peace. But it seemed that everyone was still in a daze. Ha ha. Suddenly, a mocking voice brought Instructor Liu back to reality. It was Jiang Yanlan's laughter. It seemed that she wanted to say, with your bad character, you can't possibly have come up with such a romantic idea on yourself. HMPH. Instructor Liu's lips quivered, and he patted Xuyong's arm. Boy, why are you still in a daze? The host should be ready. Ah, the host? Ah, ooh, got it. Xuyong was a little flustered, seeing that Zhang Han and the others were about to enter the castle. He quickly ran to catch up with them. Chapter 795, The Boisterous Mount New Moon. There were many people in the hall, including many members of the Zi family and the Wang family. In fact, the Zhang family had the least number of people present. There were Zhang Guangyu, Zhang Han, and Zhang Li, and that was all. There were only the three of them, if adding Rong Jiali. They were a family of four. Some of the members of the Rong family could also be considered Zhang Han's family, only that they were not very close to Zhang Han if compared with Zhang Li. The Rong Jiali and Rong Jiexin's branch held their chins high in front of the Rong family. They had never expected that Rong Jiali's son was so awesome, nor did they know that Zhang Wengyu's background was so powerful. Before, only the head of the Rong family knew something about him, but now, the whole family had learned about it. At this time, many onlookers were sitting on the sides of the hall. In the center, there were four big chairs, on which sat Xuanhuan, Ziqiang, Zhang Wengyu, and Rong Jiali. Zhang Li and Rong Jiexin were in a different room with Meng Meng. They were helping the girl making the last preparations before she went on stage. Otherwise, Meng Meng would probably rush to the hall already. Although she was a little suspected of being a third wheel, no one would dislike such a lovely little girl. Well, next is the toast of our newcomers. I'm Xuyong, the current host. Let's welcome today's groom and bride to toast both of their parents. It was also Xuyong's first time to be a wedding host. Although he had done a lot of preparation last night, he couldn't remember it at this time, but he still had the general process in his mind, so he decided to act on his own discretion. As he spoke, he waved his hand to Ahu and the others. In the end, Ahu rushed to the side with 2 wine plates, on which there were 4 small cups filled with Chinese alcohol. You each make a toast to the parents of the other party. Of course, since today's wedding, you'll call the other party's parents your mother and father. I don't know if both of your parents have prepared a big red envelope for you. If not, it's a pity. Ha ha ha, we have it here, have it here. Zhang Guangyu laughed and nodded. The other 3 parents were also smiling. Then let our excellent groom propose a toast to the bride's parents first. Xuyong said loudly. Zhang Han nodded slightly, took a glass of wine from the wine tray next to him, and held it with both hands. When he handed it over, Xuyong called, now it's time to call them parents. Let's do it. In fact, Zhang Han was grippy by a mix of feelings. Looking at Ziqiang, he called, Dad, drink some wine. Well, good boy. Ziqiang quickly took the cup and drank it up. Then Zhang Han toasted Xuanhuan again. She was not good at drinking, but she drank it all in one gulp. Then she took out a big red envelope and handed it to Zhang Han. Next, please let the bride propose a toast. Xuyong said. Mom, your daughter-in-law now proposes a toast to you. Xian smiled slightly and gave her a cup of wine. Here went the same. Zhang Wengyu gave the bride a big red envelope, too. The 2 red envelopes were bulging. Everyone knew that it should not be money. The bank card would not be that thick. It must be something meaningful. With their curious eyes fixed on him, Xuyong continued, the toast is over. Let's go to the stage outside. It's time to walk down the red carpet. The crowd slowly filed out of the hall. On the lawn outside, some tables were already full. Among them, there were some important local figures, such as those of the Luo family, the Chu family, the Yi family, and several official representatives. There were also some people who had a good relationship with Zhang Han in the martial arts world, like Danan, Mo Chengfeng, and Wang. In addition, Fang Rushan and the others had also come to join in the fun. The number of people present was quite large. After everyone arrived, most of them found a table and sat down. Zhang Han and Xian stood on the edge of the red carpet on the side. Zhang Guanyu and the other three parents walked to the stage near the Thunder Yang tree. "Hello, everyone, I'm the host, Xuyong." Xuyong grinned and didn't seem to know what to say next. He took out a manuscript and started reading. In the boundless huge crowd, all kinds of men and women meet each other. They either pass each other in a hurry or fall in love with each other. Today, it seems that this couple is destined to have an extraordinary encounter. Well, they are a perfect match, a perfect couple. After the long speech, Xuyong threw away the manuscript and grabbed the microphone. In a booming voice, he said, "I'm going to announce that the wedding ceremony of the groom, Zhang Han, and the bride, Xian, has officially begun. All guests, please get up and welcome the new couple with a warm round of applause." Claps. For a moment, there was thunderous applause. Everyone stood up and expressed their blessings with the applause. Zhang Han and Xian also looked at each other. They smiled happily. In the melodious wedding march, they held hands and walked slowly to the stage in front of them. Under their feet was a 100-meter-long red carpet. When they covered 2/3 of the red carpet, Xuyong continued. "Congratulations, bride and groom. You've come to the other side of happiness that belongs to you, when your love." He had indeed prepared quite a speech. It didn't finish until the new couple stepped onto the stage to say their wedding vows. The two of them said in unison, "I do." Their declaration of love was confirmed. Okay, then let the handsome couple exchange tokens. Here I have to remind you that the little guest who will bring them flowers and wedding rings is the daughter of our new couple. Well, I won't explain it here, because everyone already knew. Before he could finish his words, Zhang Han shook his head slightly and took over the microphone. He smiled, and said slowly, "By accident, we had a child first, and we've been through a lot before we got together. This is a late wedding. I am very grateful to Xian and love her very much. I also hope that everyone present can witness our long-lasting love. Next, please invite my lovely little princess, Meng Meng, to come on the stage." After that, Zhang Han fixed his eyes on Meng Meng, who was on the other side of the red carpet. The little girl was quite beautiful today. She was holding a bouquet in her hand, and on top of the bouquet, there was a pair of rings. After making that remark, Zhang Han handed the microphone back to Xuyong and waved at Meng Meng. "I'm coming." Meng Meng looked elated, she giggled, and when she saw Zhang Han's waving, she ran to the stage. Ouch! The red carpet on the lawn didn't seem to be even. Meng Meng missed a step and leaned forward, just about to fall. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Dozens of energy waves gathered on her, trying to help Meng Meng up, but how could they be faster than Zhang Han, who had been watching Meng Meng without blinking all the time? Clatter. A gentle force supported the little princess. She was a little confused. She blinked her big eyes and looked around. Then she ran at the stage again. "Papa, Mama." When she arrived at the stage, Meng Meng called out sweetly and handed the flowers to Zhang Han. "The handsome groom, please hand the bouquet to the beautiful bride in front of you, and put on her finger the ring of love." Under many envious and gratified gazes, the two exchanged rings. All parts of rings seemed to be made of diamonds, which shone so brilliantly that many women below the stage envied them. "Beautiful little princess, do you have anything to say to your parents today?" Xuyong handed the microphone to Meng Meng with a smile. "Huh? Meng Meng was slightly taken aback. Looking up at Zhang Han and Xian, she pouted and uttered, "Papa is super handsome, Mama is super beautiful, and I." Wish Papa and Mama a happy marriage. Ha ha. The audience burst into laughter. It was the first time that they had seen a couple's kids send wedding blessings on the wedding ceremony. But it seemed quite interesting. Now, I announce that the wedding banquet officially begins. Everyone, enjoyed the finest food in front of you. Xuanhuan said passionately. For today's wedding banquet, Dongchen sent the whole Heavenly Knights sect to the Beast Mountain to gain experience. They captured a lot of spiritual beasts, plus the ingredients of Mount New Moon. It could be said that this was an extraordinary banquet. The Luo family, the Chu family, and Ltanan and the others were all drooling about today's delicious food. Come on, take another shot. The atmosphere began to become lively. Meng followed Zhang Li and came to sit with her good friend. Wang Yihan had saved a place for Meng as well. Zhang Han and Xian began to toast the guests. This time, Xian made toasts with red wine, while Zhang Han drank Chinese alcohol. He didn't have to worry about getting drunk as he was good at drinking. As for Xian, after a round of toasts, her face turned a little red. Seeing this, Xuanhuan quickly got up and said, all right, the bride and groom have finished their toasts. Let's go to the bridal chamber for the next part. Let's send the two newlyweds to the bridal chamber to rest. We have also prepared a lot of programs in the afternoon. The show will continue until 6 o'clock in the evening, and there will be a sumptuous dinner. If you have time, please stay and celebrate this festive day with us. Great. Woohoo. Many people shouted in excitement. At the table at the far end, Dai, Little Hai, and the tiny tot also barked. Whoa, 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 ow woo woo, coochie, dot. Then let's go take a rest. Being watched by all the guests, Xian's cheeks seemed to be redder and more delicate. She went back to the castle with Zhang Han and headed to the third floor. There were a lot of decorations in the bedroom. The pillowcases and bedsheets had all been changed into red ones. The bed was surrounded by beautiful flowers, and even the floor was strewn with rose petals. After closing the door, Zhang Han smiled and began, don't talk, kiss me. Like a dry wood bumped into a fire, Xian wrapped herself around Zhang Han as if she were a small snake. The room was full of romance and sweetness. The banquet outside the castle was also very lively, yet, the onlookers on the nearby mountain watching the show were a little dumbfounded. At first, they could see the pictures of the newlyweds around Mount New Moon, but at the moment when the rainbow bridge rose, wheeze, a faint mist lingered around the whole Mount New Moon, making it impossible for them to see what was going on inside, and they couldn't use their soul sense to try to find out, either. This led them to realize one thing. There was indeed a formation on Mount New Moon, but they didn't know if it was the Heaven-Earth formation. In this regard, the crowd also had a small discussion. I haven't spotted any formation on Mount New Moon. I guess this is just an ordinary one. After all, the Heaven-Earth formation requires time and treasures. These divine objects on Mount New Moon are nowhere near enough. Yes, the Heaven-Earth formation usually takes several months to build, and Zhang Han Yang has been in Xiangjiang for only a year. It's a pity that we can't watch the fun anymore. Zhang Han Yang used to be a legend in Xiangjiang. Now, he has lost his fame, but that doesn't seem to bother him. Look at Yilong Yuan, Shi Fenwu, and the others. Those people have all suffered defeat at Zhang Han Yang's hand, but nowadays, their names alone can scare a lot of people in the God realm. With the appearance of the invincible Grand Master, now the era of Wudao Grand Masters has passed. Perhaps his pursuit is different. Forget it, let's go. Many martial artists who liked Zhang Han, basically his fans, had come here, too, when they saw that his old titles, such as Zhang Han Yang, the merciless Zhang, were fading out of people's mind. They were also a little emotional, but there was no other way. After all, it was not their business. With the departure of these onlookers, Mount New Moon was the only place that was boisterous. When the visitors saw the powerful guard team, they took off again one after another. Even those who harbored malicious intentions, such as those from the Wind Snow School, the Capricemo sect leader, all went away. Although some people planned to stir up trouble on Zhang Han's wedding day, they still had scruples for the authorities. It wasn't that they were scared. If they were provoked, they would still dare to take action. What they feared was the powerful and mysterious Black-White Palace. In addition, the divine list was about to be released. When that time came, as long as Zhang Han was on the list, people could go challenge him. Then, it wouldn't matter even if someone killed him in public. It was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. A few videos on the internet had become popular. Hot topics were emerging one after another. What a rich man, there are so many luxury cars. It's really Xian's wedding, DM it. The driver is Han Yang, why isn't there a live broadcast? This is way too extravagant. In contrast with these people, Sun Donging was being bombarded by a million calls. Beep, 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 beep. The calls came in one after another. In the end, Sun Donging had no choice but to mute his phone. There were many rich people on his contact list, and he checked their messages one by one. He found that most of them asked the same questions. Your boss is getting married? Brother, why didn't you inform me sooner that I wouldn't miss such a grand wedding? Shouldn't you be punished? The event is huge, but a pity that I can't see it. Could you shoot a short video? The avalanche of messages made Sun Donging dizzy. He clicked into a fan group and found that the topic they were on was the same, and they were nearly about to accuse him of his wrongdoing. I really can't give you a video. They don't want to publicize the wedding. My hands are tied. Sun Donging felt wronged. If you don't have any videos, you sure can give us some photos, right? Fine, I can only give you 2 photos. Don't ask me for more after I post these. In the end, Sun Donging picked 2 photos he shot when the motorcade went up the mountain. He was far away from the motorcade, so the pictures didn't show Zhang Han, who was driving, and Xian, who was in the passenger seat, clearly. Even so, the photos still had a kind of hazy beauty. After sending the pictures, there was another sensation in the group chat. Sun Donging didn't check his phone anymore. He had already given them face in doing this. Take a break with your mobile phone and eat something. These are very delicious, said Sun Donging's mother, who smiled helplessly at this. Hearing that, Sun Donging began to enjoy the food. Almost everyone stuffed themselves to the fullest. After all, today's ingredients were not those that they could have on normal days. At the top row of tables, Dong Chen and others were sitting at a table, and Zhang Guangyu was sitting at the table next to them. Ahem, Guangyu, how's that thing going? Dong Chen turned around and asked. Oh, he said that he would do it for us tomorrow, and then he would go on his honeymoon. Zhang Guangyu smiled. Got it. Dong Chen turned back and shook his head slightly. At least this guy has some conscience. He didn't go on his honeymoon right off. They had been waiting for several days, but they hadn't even caught a glimpse of what Zhang Han's cultivation method was like. Now they finally got an answer. Hearing their words, Wang Xiao asked curiously, Grand Elder, what's the matter? Young Lord is going on his honeymoon, but the divine list is about to come out. The conversation among the elders that day was carried out in private. The disciples outside didn't hear it, so they didn't know that the young lord was going to teach the highest elders some new cultivation methods. At this, Dong Chen was silent for a second. Then he said, you don't need to know it. It's not something we can't tell. Third elder said flatly, Zhang Han is going to guide us on the cultivation method. PFFT, Wang Xiao, who had just stuffed a mouthful of rice, directly spat it out. With a face full of astoundment, he asked, what did you say? Even Yun Fei Yang, who had always been tacit, was shocked. His eyes stopped blinking. He didn't expect that the young lord had become this powerful. Can I still catch up with him? How strong is he? Wang Xiao asked what was on everyone's mind. Dong Chen remained silent at this. First elder responded, how strong? The only thing I know is that in front of his formation, I am just a piece of trash. Oh no, A grain of dust. I can't compare myself to him at all. Third elder said, his strength. Well, I'd better not get into the details, lest you suffer a great blow to confidence. As long as you know that his cultivation method is so powerful that he can totally advise us on it, that'll do. Dong Chen waved his hand casually. He didn't say too much, either, but Yun Fei Yang's eyes lit up. He began, Master, elders, you just said that young lord has time to give advice tomorrow. I have a suggestion. The divine list is about to come out, and we, who have reached the earth realm, can't participate. Junior brother Jiang Bing is at the God realm peak stage. Although his strength is not bad, he is still inferior to some other cultivators. Why don't you let young lord give him some advice as well? If Jiang Bing and young lord are among the top 10 on the divine list, it will be a great promotion for our Heavenly Knights sect. That's a good idea. Third elder smiled and said, okay. By the way, is Zhang Han's strength still at the God realm? If so, he will undoubtedly come out first on the divine list. First elder suddenly remarked, the previous top on the divine list is the Hill Master, and he has been called Immortal King Zhang since then. If Zhang Han becomes the next Immortal King Zhang, as he is the grandson of the Hill Master, this will probably be an eternal legend. But will he participate? I can't stand it. The third elder shook his head slightly. It's good that he doesn't participate. Dong Chen looked at Zhang Wenyu, who was laughing. The last winner is Grandpa, and the next is the grandson of the Grandpa. Where is the son in the middle? Ha! Zhang Wenyu. Why did he start to mock me again? Humphrey, never mind, my son is getting married today. I won't argue with you. Zhang Wenyu drank a glass of Chinese wine and continued to chat with Ziqiang. After nearly 2 hours, Meng Meng couldn't stand playing with Wang Yihan anymore. Where's Papa and Mama? Meng Meng looked around and was a little anxious. She ran to the castle by herself. Hey, Meng Meng. What are you going to do? Wait, come back here. Seeing this, Zhang Li quickly went off to bring her back. I'm going to find Papa and Mama. They're still resting. Can we wait a little longer? Zhang Li answered with a smile. No. Meng Meng pouted, about to throw a tantrum. Zhang Han in a suit and Xian in a red cheongsam came over to her hand in hand. Meng Meng. Zhang Han waved at her with a smile and said, come on, Papa. Meng Meng was both surprised and delighted. She dragged her little legs and sprinted toward them. Chapter 796, Under the Thunder Yang Tree. Good girl. Zhang Han grinned and held Meng Meng in his arms. The little girl pouted and said, Papa, Mama, where have you been? Why did you leave me here for so long? Dad just gave your mom a massage. She's a little tired. Ahem, Zhang Han said with a smile. Xian rolled her eyes at him, and her face became more florid. Xian, who was wearing a cheongsam, seemed to have changed her style into that of sexiness. This cheongsam flattered her curvy figure to the fullest extent. If the others took a closer look at her, they would be instantly turned on. However, none of the people present stared to look at her directly. On the one hand, they felt it rude, and on the other hand, they were afraid of embarrassing themselves. With their social status, they were surrounded by beautiful women all the time. However, couples like Zhang Han and Xian, who both had a successful career and a beautiful relationship, were really scarce. In particular, Zhang Han's affection for Meng Meng made many of the fathers present feel dwarfed. They had seen parents who spoiled their children, but they had never seen parents spoil their children so much. He doesn't worry that he'll spoil his daughter. Many people had this idea in their minds, but when they saw the lovely Meng Meng, they found their kids more pampered. Alas, they now regretted comparing themselves to this family. Let's go and have a seat. Xian smiled and led them to Zhang Wengyu's table. Uncle, Dad, don't drink too much. Xian made to call Zhang Wenyu uncle out of habit. She was not used to calling her dad now, but she adjusted quickly to the situation and changed her word. I can still drink some. Today, I'm so happy. I must drink all I want to drink. I'm not drunk at all. Come on, Xian's father, let's clink glasses. With a red face, Ziqiang raised his glass and clinked it with Zhang Wenyiu's. Take one sip at a time, drink slowly, Zhang Wenyiu said in a hurry. Zhang Wenyiu found Ziqiang a little funny. He was not good at drinking, but he had to drink with the others. Xian shook her head helplessly and looked at Ziqiang. The mother and daughter exchanged a look but said nothing in the end. Xian felt that maybe her father was a little upset and wanted to drown his sorrows with wine. At a wedding, it was normal for the bride's parents to have this kind of emotion. He would be fine in a couple of days. Moreover, they've seen that their son-in-law was excellent and had already accepted their marriage deep down. Zhang Han sat next to them with Meng Meng in his arms. After looking at everyone with a smile, he lowered his head and asked, "Do you want some fruit?" "Sure." Meng Meng replied with a chuckle. So, Zhang Han filled Meng Meng's plate with a small piece of banana, apple, orange, grape, strawberry, and so on. After a few bites, Meng Meng couldn't eat any more. At this time, Ziqiang and Zilong began a new round of mutual complimenting. Zhang Han's dad, let me tell you something. Han will be our son since today. He's too brilliant. I've never seen such a great son-in-law, Ziqiang said seriously. Xian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It sounded as if he had seen many sons-in-law before. Yes, he is quite filial. He treats Xian and Meng Meng well. We all see that. Zhang Wenyiu nodded repeatedly. Certainly, he's powerful, handsome, and has a good character. Zilong sighed. It's the first time that I've seen someone like Zhang Han. I simply can't find any flaws in him. Like we've seen men like him before. Zihu laughed and said, we're all family now. You don't have to be so complimentary. You can be totally frank with us. We also think that Zhang Han is awesome. Yan is also very nice. Rong Jiali said with a smile, she is so pretty, and also gentle, caring, and dignified. We didn't expect that Han could find such a good daughter-in-law for us. Yes. Zhang Wenyiu echoed, she's great. Like this, the two parties, one led by Zhang Wenyiu and the other led by Ziqiang, began to compliment each other as if in a competition. The subject of complimenting went from Zhang Han and Xian to themselves. As if playing chess, they each took turns to say nice things about the other party, and the competition was extraordinarily fierce. After watching this for a while, Zhang Han and Xian took Meng Meng to other tables. Aunt Tang, Uncle Hong, please pardon us for this humble treat. Xian took Tang Jie's hand and said with a smile, no, it's a very good treat. Tang Jie answered with a smile, Yan, you're so beautiful today. I'm very happy to see you enter the wedding hall. It's really incredible. You give us a great treat today. You don't need to be so courteous to me. That's right. Hong Kitao nodded and said, Yan, don't be too courteous. That will make us look like outsiders, won't it? Hong Li and his girlfriend, Ninai, also stood up and greeted the newlyweds. In the end, Xian shook her head and said, well, then I won't stand on ceremony. Aunt Tang and everyone, help yourselves to all the food and drinks. If you're free in the afternoon, stay here to attend the dinner party. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Hong Kitao nodded with a smile. Among all the people present, there were many people with high status. Adding that Tang Jie had a relatively close relationship with Xian, most people gave them face, which also had some good auxiliary effects in their business. Chengqing, entertain the guests. Zhang Han also said to Chen Chengqing, who was sitting at the next table. Don't worry, brother Han. Chen Chengqing nodded. After that, accompanied by Xian, Zhang Han walked to the dining table on the side with Meng Meng in his arms. There sat those of the Heavenly Knights sect. Wang Xiao, Yan Feiyang, and others were giving him sort of complicated looks. They never knew that though the young master was so young, his achievements in martial arts were already so high. Dong Chen and the others also looked over. Among them, third elder reminded nonchalantly. Don't forget the thing you're gonna do tomorrow. I won't. Zhang Han didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The reason why Zhang Han didn't give them new cultivation methods before was that he was customizing the methods to make sure they get the most suitable ones. He needed some time to observe them, and it would also take a lot of effort to improve the cultivation methods in detail. But those masters didn't know that. They just thought that Zhang Han was too busy and had forgotten it. To be a competent third generation of martial arts family, how could Zhang Han forget the top forces of the Heavenly Knights sect? After greeting them, Zhang Han continued to hail the next table. The Wrong family didn't pay much attention to Zhang Han at first, but now they found that anyone in his league was a big shot that they had to look up to in awe, while sighing with emotion in their minds. They all sent blessings to him one after another. Then, the new couple came to greet the many guests from the Zi family, the Wang family, the local Luo family, as well as Sultanan, Xuanhuan, and some people on behalf of the government. The guests were numerous, but there was still a lot of time, too. Zhang Han's family of 3 took their time to greet all of them. The representatives of the government were particularly enthusiastic. Among them, a man in a high position took Zhang Han's hand and smiled bitterly. General Zhang, Mount New Moon is already big enough. Don't continue to expand it. If you occupy a few more mountains, the map of South Island will need to be altered. If you have any plans, at least discuss it with us before you carry it out. By far, there was no voice of objection toward Zhang Han. He had made friends with the Wang family, the Zi family, and Liu Qingfeng, which formed a very large business empire. He also invited many instructors in the army, who came from the Wolf Fang troop. They were the backbone of the detachments. In addition, Zhang Han was not an ambitious man, nor did he do anything evil. Therefore, though the officials had some conflicts with him from the beginning, now they had already made peace with him. For that reason, they'd invited 6 martial artists at the Heaven Peak stage to escort the motorcade along the way, which expressed their attitude clearly. We might not have control in other places, but in Xiangjiang, no one shall lay hands on Zhang Han Yang. Of course, it was only for today. They could not make those 6 martial artists at the Heaven Peak stage guard Zhang Han and his family like this forever. There was another reason that they wanted Zhang Han to stay in Xiangjiang. The fact that Zhang Han had the back of Heavenly Knights sect and was their young lord was no secret for the high authorities. The Heavenly Knights sect was also a powerful force. When they resisted the attack launched by the alliance of the Wind Snow School and the other 7 sects and even fought back, everyone was astounded. All these factors made Zhang Han more and more important to them. Hearing the old man's words, Zhang Han's mouth quivered. I suppose we won't expand anymore. Mount New Moon was big enough. The magical park prepared for Meng Meng as well as other planned locations had all been reserved. The 3 chances of transformation the Thunder Yang tree could provide had all been used. It would take another 500 years before it had such abilities again. And when that time came, the world might not still be like this anymore. But this time, after the transformation, Mount New Moon became a whole piece of land. When it became a Thunder Yang treasure land in the future, it would be a portable treasure land. As for whether Zhang Han would stay in Xiangjiang for long, Zhang Han reckoned the answer was positive. To say the least, Meng Meng had just started her life in kindergarten. Then, she still had to attend middle class and top class for 2 years, and then primary school, junior high, and high school. There was still a long way to go, so Zhang Han didn't want to think about such a remote thing. He just wanted to accompany Meng Meng. Childhood was too fast. He still remembered that last year, Meng Meng always spoke in a childish voice, but now, the trace of naiveness in her voice had faded a lot. After greeting all the guests table by table, Zhang Han's family of 3 went back to the main table. After more than half an hour of guest entertaining, the show already began. To everyone's surprise, the first person to get on the stage was Liu Qingfeng, who came late that day. Wow! There are so many people here today, and the weather is good. The sky is clear and the sun is shining brightly. Here, I want to wish today's newlyweds, Zhang Han and Xian, a long and happy life together. Well, there is no need to wish you a beautiful baby, you already have a little cutie. So, without further ado, let's watch the show and have fun. After saying that, Liu Qingfeng waved at the guests with a smile and stepped down quickly. He was such a person with a rough and straightforward temperament, even when there were many big shots that he must look at in or under the stage. He was not scared, having no stage fright. He was the bold and honest kind. According to Zhang Han's words, Liu Qingfeng had the demeanor of a general. Liu Qingfeng got off the stage, went straight to Zhang Han, and sent him a blessing again. Then he ran to Zhang Wangyu to talk about the old days. They had once cooperated with each other in business, so they knew each other. After talking to Zhang Wangyu, Liu Qingfeng took Liu Jian to the empty seats on the side table and sat down. Hu raised his eyes and watched them for a while. Then, he walked over with a beaming face, holding a glass of wine in his hand. After all, Liu Qingfeng was his father-in-law. Although he hadn't approved the couple, he still had to pamper him. This scene made Zhang Han and Xian smile at each other. It was indeed difficult for a man to get his father-in-law to like him. Before their smiles faded away, a voice came from beside them. Whoa, 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 whoa. He turned his head and found that it was Dai, who was holding a red wine bottle. He barked at Zhang Han several times before gulping down all the wine. From his actions and posture, it seemed that he was giving Zhang Han blessings, too. Didn't you just have a drink? Zhang Han patted Dai's hand with a smile, picked up a glass of wine, and drained it. Little Hai was still sneezing, but it still came over with a bowl of wine in its mouth. Tiny Tot, who always followed the other two, could not help joining them. It came over carefully holding the wine glass with its wings and began to take one sip after another. Huh? Meng was stunned at this. Tiny Tot, why are you drinking at such a young age? Coochie, coochie. Tiny Tot thought that Meng was praising it, so it threw away the empty bottle and flapped its wings with joy. Oh, Papa, Tiny Tot had a drink. Didn't you say that kids can't drink wine? It's okay for them to drink a little, they are animals. But kids can't do it, especially little girls. They shall not drink with others. Think about it, if Tiny Tot is drunk, it'll just sleep on the mountain. But what if you get drunk? Others might take advantage of you. Don't you think so? Thus, you shouldn't drink even a drop of wine. After another round of explanation, Meng's big eyes stopped blinking. After a while, she nodded and said, well, I get it, Papa, I can't drink. That's my girl. They sat there and watched the performance for a while. There were magic shows, comic dialogue, and singings. Some people in the audience perked up as the shows went on. For instance, Instructor Liu also performed magic on the stage. There came performances of fetching objects or hitting objects without touching them. The magician was confused. What the hell is this? But there were constant cheers from the audience. Happy time always passed very quickly. Before long, the sky gradually darkened. Buzz, buzz, buzz. One by one, the lights were lit up, lighting up the whole Mount New Moon. If someone was looked at it from the sky, he would find that the lights formed a heart shape. Of course, Xian also saw it. Zhang Han seized an opportunity to take Xian to the dense forest at the back of the mountain. She thought that Zhang Han was up to something out of bounds, but it turned out that he brought her to the air with him. Looking at the heart-shaped lights below, Xian was very touched and nestled in Zhang Han's arms. For a very, very long time. At about 7 o'clock, the banquet ended and the guests left one after another. There was no traditional game of teasing the bride and the bridegroom on the wedding night that evening. Zhang Han didn't like it anyway. He lay quietly on the big bed with Xian and Meng. At about 8 o'clock, the mother and daughter fell asleep while listening to Zhang Han's story. As they were exhausted from doing the event during the day, they went to bed a little earlier. Although Zhang Han was not tired, he held Xian and Meng in his arms and took a rest at ease. It was not until Xian got up at 12 o'clock at night that Zhang Han opened his eyes and gazed at the back of the beautiful woman with a smile. But then he looked at the window. After Xian came back and fell into a deep sleep, he got up gently, put on his pajamas, and jumped down from the balcony. In a small pavilion under the Thunder Yang tree, Zhang Guangyu and Dong Chen were drinking Chinese alcohol. Rong Jiali was sitting quietly beside them. When they saw Zhang Han coming over, they all turned to look at him. "It's so late, why haven't you turned in yet?" Zhang Han took a seat and asked with a smile, "I have something on my mind, so we stay here and had a little chat." Zhang Guangyu replied, "You're the groom, why didn't you accompany Yan and your girl? What are you doing here?" Rong Jiali smiled and reached out to stroke Zhang Han's messy hair. "They're sleeping soundly. I saw you guys chatting here, so I came over to check on you. In fact, we were also talking about you just now," Dong Chen said, and then his eyes became all serious. He slowly continued, "Zhang Han, I have been observing you for a long time, but the longer I observe you, the more frightened I become. They say that you've obtained amazing opportunities, the inheritance of powerful figures and centuries, and a vast amount of treasures. But I can tell that it's not like that. I admit that there is perhaps a shortcut to gain power, but there is certainly no shortcut to such a state of mind. Alas." Dong Chen abruptly heaved a sigh. "Many times when I was with you, I subconsciously felt as if I was facing an old monster who had lived for a long time instead of a young man, because I didn't find any panic or fear in your eyes. You were still quite composed even when you entered the Wind Snow School, as if you were walking on flat ground. It seemed that there was nothing in the world that could cause you to panic." Buzz. His words made Zhang Han's pupils freeze for a moment. How shrewd he is. Zhang Han was a little surprised. He also knew that he couldn't control the aura that leaked out inadvertently, because it was his own aura. When he just came back, he regarded the people of the world as non-entities, which was an indisputable fact. But now, because of Meng Meng and Xian, Zhang Han changed quite a lot. The anger and indifference in his heart were compressed in a corner. Maybe when no one teased him, he would be able to hide it, but once someone provoked him, it would instantly expand and erupted into a kind of great horror. "That's why I suspect." Dong Chen looked at Zhang Han with a complicated look in his eyes. These were all his true thoughts, and that was exactly what they were talking about just now. Before he could finish his words, Zhang Guangyu also sighed. "Son, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Your strength, the formation, and the elixir refining are all abnormally excellent. Is there anything wrong with your body?" "Ah?" Zhang Han was stupefied at his words. He didn't expect that they would think about it in this way. But he actually kind of understood that. The heaven-defying ability often came with great pain. "No." Zhang Han shook his head and said, "I told you, I got the 500 years memory of a mighty master." This was also the reason why Zhang Han didn't tell them about his rebirth. There were some things that were too complicated even for him to understand, and he didn't want his relatives to worry about him. A powerful figure who lived for 500 years old, could he be a master from the Kunlun immortal world? Dong Chen's eyes narrowed. As soon as he said that, Zhang Guangyu and Rong Jiali looked at each other and felt that it might be true. Zhang Han saw their expressions. He shook his head slightly, stood up, looked up at the starry sky, and slowly remarked, "Uncle Dong, although you're fairly talented, your mind is still limited to this small place. You don't know how vast the world is, and you don't even know what the world you live in is. Compared with the vast starry sky, this place we're living in is too small. Whether it's the Earth or the Kunlun immortal world, it's like a speck of dust in comparison with the universe." "Vast, starry sky? How did you know? Could it be that there are martial artists in the depths of the universe?" Dong Chen's face was full of shock and disbelief. Even Zhang Guangyu and Rong Jiali widened their eyes in surprise. The vastness of the universe is beyond imagination. They are not called martial artists, but cultivators. Many years ago, the human cultivators suppressed the heavens and realms, But there were too many races in the universe, such as dwarfs, beasts, elves, ancient demonic beasts, and so on. Thousands of races competed for glory in the universe, and that is called the cultivation world. The heaven peak stage is just the bottom level of the cultivation world. Even some newborn children are stronger than those in the heaven realm. Of course, when your strength reaches a certain level, you will know these things. The martial arts heritage I get comes from the top experts of the cultivation world. Therefore, the cultivation methods I give you may not be the most advanced but are certainly the most suitable for you at the present. One more thing, I'm this strong because I obtained the martial arts heritage of some predecessor. It's not like that I've been possessed. I'm still myself, don't worry about that. After finishing his words, Zhang Han smiled and turned around, only to see three dumbstruck faces. Chapter 797, Giving Instructions. The vast universe. In the vast starry sky, tens of thousands of races are competing for power. The cultivation world. The heaven peak stage is just the beginning. Even their newborn children are stronger than those in the heaven realm. Those pieces of information struck Dong Chen and the other two dumb. They could not imagine that in the depths of the mysterious starry sky, there was such a group of powerful figures, living in another vast world. The earth, even the Kunlun immortal world, was just a speck of dust compared to the universe. Good heavens, that was beyond their imagination. This kind of feeling was like an ordinary person who suddenly learned of the martial arts world and came to realize that there was such a hot-blooded Jiang-wu around them, which was certainly shocking news. Like that, although they were fairly strong martial artists, they were still very much astonished. The so-called Kunlun immortal world and all kinds of immortal regions are nothing, they just don't know how big the universe is. The real immortal realm is in the cultivation world. When a cultivator has passed the 9th stage of the tribulation in the cultivation world, reached a certain level, he will trigger the thunder tribulation and blaze the heaven road. We don't even know whether it is really the immortal realm there. What is an immortal? Everyone has a different understanding of that. For ordinary people, the martial artists in the god realm are like the immortals on land. The answer can vary if we make different comparisons. Maybe there is only another high-end world outside the heaven road. These are still far too remote from us, so we don't need to fuss about the details. Zhang Han shook his head slightly. His words also brought the three of them out of their reveries. Zhang Wangyu gave a hollow laugh and said, I thought that the martial arts heritage you got was from a mighty master in the Kunlun immortal world. It seems that I've underestimated him again. Like the realms you mentioned last time, then. What realms? Dong Chen inquired at once. At this time, he was no longer calm, he was burning with a hot pursuit of martial arts, and his eyes were scorching, riveted on Zhang Han unblinkingly. It was obvious that if Zhang Han didn't give Dong Chen a detailed answer, he wouldn't let him go. Then I'll get into it. Zhang Han smiled and began. There are Qi Strength Masters, Wu Dao Grand Masters, God Realm Masters, Earth Realm Masters, and Heaven Realm Masters on Earth. These names are invented by ourselves, and there are no problems with that. However, in the cultivation world, the realms are divided into the Qi refining stage, the foundation, the innateness, the golden elixir, the Yuan Ying, the God transformation, the void refining stage, the integration, and the mastery. So, there are a total of 9 stages. After that, there will be a tribulation. When you pass the tribulation, you can suppress a region, and the tribulation stage is broken down into 9 stages as well. It goes from the 1st stage to the 9th stage, like a round of trial. Only after the 9th stage can you have the opportunity to go through the thunder tribulation and step on the heaven road. In fact, the Qi refining stage is similar to the Qi Strength Master. The foundation stage is similar to a Wu Dao Grand Master. In the cultivation world, there is a saying that if you don't enter the innateness stage, you are immortal. Therefore, the innateness stage is the beginning of cultivation. It is somewhat similar to the God realm, but compared with the innateness stage, the God realm is still a lot inferior. What? Dong Chen was shocked. He abruptly stood up and stared at Zhang Han. According to that system, wouldn't it mean that the heaven realm was actually quite weak? Those at the heaven peak stage couldn't get killed? Perhaps in the eyes of the highest level cultivators who had passed the tribulation, those at the heaven peak stage were as humble as ants, which they could crush at any time. Then the innateness is similar to the God realm, then I'm equivalent to those in the elixir, the Xuanhuan stage. Am I about to reach the Xuanhuan stage? Then above this, isn't it the God transformation realm? I'm afraid that there are a lot of martial artists in the God transformation realm in the Kunlun immortal world, and there are so many realms above that. The world is so big that it is far beyond my imagination. Alas, Dong Chen mumbled to himself. Hearing this, Zhang Han was a little confused. Wait, you seem to have some misunderstanding about your realm. What misunderstanding? Dong Chen asked in haste. You're still a far way away from the elixir realm. It's not that you're about to reach the Xuanhuan stage. Let me put it this way. A cultivator at the Xuanhuan stage can make the main sect of the Wind Snow School disappear from this world with just one punch. Dong Chen's pupils shrank. Then, which realm are you in? Zhang Wangyu suddenly asked. Hearing this, Dong Chen shook his dizzy head, looked at Zhang Han earnestly, and pricked up his ears. I'm merely at the middle stage of the innateness. Zhang Han nodded and said, in the face of a man at the heaven peak stage, I can put a fight. As for those at the middle stage of the heaven realm, I can kill them with one hand. Upon hearing his words, the three people once again fell into silence. 2 minutes later, after finally digesting the news, Dong Chen smiled bitterly and said, does that mean, when you reach the last stage of innateness, those at the heaven peak stage may no longer be your match? It's not that they may, but definitely won't be my match. Zhang Han laughed. The system of realms is very complicated. In fact, the strength of an ordinary man in the innateness is almost the same as that of someone in the early stage of the innateness realm and the God realm. A man at the middle stage is nearly as strong as that in the earth realm, and the last stage is similar to the heaven realm. However, I'm not an ordinary innateness cultivator. It turns out that this is the real realm system, Dong Chen said with a complex look. In fact, we have also heard of chi refining, foundation, and innateness, only that our knowledge was half-baked. We haven't heard of the latter levels at all, let alone seen one in those realms. Is our planet not suitable for cultivation? Even though the spiritual chi is exhausted in the secular world, the worldlet is still abundant with it. But no one has ever heard any martial artist break through to the heaven peak stage. This planet isn't suitable for cultivation? Zhang Han chuckled and said, that's just an illusion. I can tell you for sure that the planet under our feet is extraordinary. It has another name, the Scent Warrior planet. There are so many relics, worldlets, 3 dead lands, 8 dangerous lands, and the Kunlun immortal world. These places are all attached to this main world. This is the real treasure land. Saint Warrior Planet, it sounds impressive, but, because this is supposed to be the sealed Saint Warrior Planet, that's why the world has become like this. Zhang Han sighed. You don't have to know about these things. After all, I don't know what's going on either. So that's how it is. Dong Chen said in a daze. It feels like a dream. This information is too mind-blowing. My son used to give me a shock every day, but these days, he finally calmed down. Now I suddenly get to know such top secrets. I feel that the peak of the heaven realm is nothing at all. But thinking about it, I'm still in the earth realm. Alas, Zhang Wangyu sighed and remarked, stop it, we can't let this conversation continue anymore. Let's take time to digest it. We shall all go back and rest. I'm off. After saying these 2 words, Dong Chen leapt up and left quickly. Seeing this, Zhang Han's corner of mouth twitched slightly. He came here just to teach Dong Chen the cultivation method, so that it could save him a lot of trouble tomorrow. Yet, Zhang Han didn't expect that Dong Chen would soon take off after they just started to chat. Son, your father and I are also going back. You should go to bed early. Now the wedding is over, go spend some quality time with Xian. Rong Jiali smiled gently. Got it. Zhang Han smiled and watched them leave. Then he went back to the bedroom, took off his pajamas, and went to bed to rest. The next day was Sunday. Zhang Han and his family had no plans for any outings. Because Zhang Han had to teach others some cultivation methods, even Jiang Bing had hurried over from the sect. After breakfast, just as Zhang Han was about to go to the back mountain with Meng Meng, Chen Qingqing and Zif came to him from the side. Brother Han. As they approached, Chen Qingqing whispered in Zhang Han's ear, I'm thinking about going out for a while. Those guys outside are quite unruly, we've got to make them behave. Oh? Zhang Han looked at Chen Qingqing in surprise. He was at the God Realm late stage. Owing to the King Dragon blood and the all-out drought demonic dragon method, his strength was quite strong. An ordinary martial artist at the God Realm peak stage was no match for him. Zhang Han remembered he had said that when he reached the God Realm peak stage, he would go out to teach the group of talents from the world lit a lesson. Now that Zhang Han smelt his aura, sure enough, this dude was already at the God Realm peak stage. Then go ahead. Zhang Han nodded slightly. Are you going with me or not? I can wait for you for a few days. Chen Qingqing then voiced his real agenda. He wanted to turn the world lit upside down with Brother Han. But Zhang Han was not interested in these things. He shook his head and said, I will have a honeymoon with my beautiful wife. Xian couldn't help but smirk after hearing his words. You have such a glib tongue. Xian rolled her eyes. Huh? Meng Meng also raised her head out of curiosity, not knowing what they were talking about. All right then. Chen Qingqing gave an awkward smile. I knew it, never mind. I'll go out and have some fun myself. Look after Fei Fei for me. Hey, you're telling me? Zif yelled crossly. At this place, you are the outsider, okay? Ah? Chen Qingqing's face darkened. Okay, I'm leaving. He was a little reluctant to leave his lover when they just started the relationship. Nonetheless, in such a prosperous era, the Chen family had to send a member to the martial arts stage as well, and that man was Chen Qingqing. In addition, he was a member of Mount New Moon. Since Brother Han was unwilling to leave Mount New Moon, he would launch a massacre and make a name for himself. He left without hesitation. After saying goodbye, he turned around and headed down the mountain. Zif had watched his back for quite a while. After he left, she became a little depressed. Well, he'll be back in a few days. Seeing her like this, Xian ran to Zif and comforted her in a low voice. Now she could totally tell her I've been through this, too. When Zhang Han was not on Mount New Moon, she didn't know how she got through it. Although Chen Qingqing's departure was quite different from that, it was still a separation. They went all the way to the pet area, where Meng Meng and Dai began to play. Zhang Han was there, watching them play. Xian and Zuf started chatting over juice in a pavilion at the side. At 8 o'clock, Dong Chen arrived first. Ahem. He stood under the thunder yang tree for 2 minutes. Seeing that Zhang Han ignored him, he coughed softly. However, Zhang Han still did not seem to have noticed him. Ahem. There was another light cough, which was slightly louder than the previous one. With a martial artist's hearing ability, it should be easy for Zhang Han to hear it. This brat, why is he playing dumb with me? Ahem, hem, ahem, ah, ahem, ahem, hem. Dong Chen refused to yield. He kept coughing over there, his eyes glowering at Zhang Han. It seemed that he would soon lose it. Grand Elder, why are you coughing? Wang Xiang, Yan Feiyang, and Jiang Bing walked over from the back. All three of them looked puzzled. What's wrong with Grand Elder? Does he have a cold or a fever? Dong Chen's expression froze slightly, but he quickly recovered his composure and said, lately, I found a secret method. It can achieve an unexpected effect with the help of some vocal practice. Well, it calls for 30% of your spiritual force and 70% of your soul sense. Sadly, I haven't found the balance yet. Is that so? Wang Xiao was dazed for a moment, but then, his confusion was replaced by surprise. Grand Elder is giving us some instructions. Ahem. Ahem. Hem. 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 Wang Xiao took the lead to try it out. Jiang Bing and Yun Fei Yang thought for a while and started coughing one after another. Ahem. All of a sudden, there was sort of a racket there, which eventually attracted Zhang Han's attention. However, Dong Chen was a little amazed. Ow, cough. With a buzz, Wang Xiao coughed out a gust of evil wind, which filled the area within 10 meters with wreathing evil spirit. Thank you for your guidance, Grand Elder. Wang Xiao's face was full of surprise and he thanked Dong Chen repeatedly. Dong Chen was bewildered. He obviously didn't understand it. Chapter 798, Teaching of Cultivation Methods. It was just a theory Dong Chen made up to save his face. He never thought that Wang Xiao could really make something out of it. Although it seemed to be of little value now, it was possible that he could later comprehend a certain secret skill and develop a brand new secret skill. After all, it was not bad to use spiritual force and soul sense to draw out the evil wind. What are you guys coughing for? Third Elder walked toward them with a calm look on his face. At the three's behavior, he was a little bewildered. The disciples told him what they were doing. Then, Third Elder looked at Dong Chen with a strange look and then looked at Zhang Han. It appeared that he had understood something. A few minutes later, Zhang Guangyu and the other three peakheads arrived. Only then did Zhang Han stand up and said to Meng Meng with a smile, Meng Meng, Papa is going over there to talk with the uncles. Yes, I got it. Meng Meng obediently waved goodbye with her little hand. Anyway, she was playing on the mountain. The little girl could see them, so it didn't matter if they were a little far away. Sometimes people were just so absurd. For instance, a boy was playing games, and his girlfriend was watching TV beside them. They had no interaction with each other during the whole time, but they both felt at ease, and if one day, one of them wasn't there with the other, the feeling would be very different. Zhang Han came to the Thunder Yang tree. The people there were all from Heavenly Knight's sect. There were Dong Chen the Grand Elder, First Elder who was proficient in the formation, Third Elder who was good at fighting, as well as the three peakheads, the number one disciple, Yun Fei Yang, and Wang Xiao and Jiang Bing, and Zhang Guangyu was there, too. As for Ong Jiali, she had gone to play with her granddaughter on the way here. Let's get started. Who shall be the first? Zhang Han glanced at these people and smiled. He wasted no time making speeches but went straight to the business. Is this place proper? First Elder hesitated for a bit, then he suggested, should we go to a quiet place? No need. I'll go first. Dong Chen took a step forward. Okay, open your mind, don't resist, keep your mind calm and feel it with your heart, Zhang Han said in a deep voice. All of a sudden, his right hand pressed forward through the air. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Invisible energy fluctuations formed lines between him and Dong Chen. In the face of the invasion of external energy, Dong Chen instinctively wanted to resist. This was self-defense. But as soon as his spiritual force moved, he forcibly suppressed it and calmed it down, letting the energy under Zhang Han's control wantonly enter his body. It was no exaggeration to say that if Zhang Han wanted to take Dong Chen's life at this time, he could do it. However, when the invasive energy kept increasing, Dong Chen's soul sense and spiritual force started to fight back despite his will. Bump. His heart seemed to have missed a beat. Clear your mind. At this moment, a voice full of majesty seemed to explode in his mind. Dong Chen's consciousness slowly calmed down. His soul sense and spiritual force gradually quieted. According to the method you've practiced, I tweaked a set of upper-level methods into a suitable one for you. This method is called the Four Symbols. See, which happens to a great method for a man at your level to cultivate. The so-called four symbols C refers to the azure dragon C, the vermilion bird C, the white tiger C, and the black tortoise C that you'll have in four directions when you formed the golden elixir. The so-called four symbols represent four kinds of power. You can absorb some spirit beasts or a series of energy in these four bloodlines. After being refined by the method, it will become your own power. This is what it can do in the elixir stage. When you reach the God transformation realm, the four symbols Danshan will lead your soul sense C to change together. Then, your means will be numerous. Of course, whether you can get its power depends on your luck in the future. Uncle Dong, you are still quite young, and it's the time for you to shine. Back then, you saw me live a leisurely life, but in fact, in my eyes, you are the one who lives a leisurely life. Want to go over Heaven Peak stage? It's not impossible for you to break this bottleneck. Dong Chen had given Zhang Han that same lecture many times. Today, Zhang Han took this opportunity and lectured him in return. However, he didn't tell him the rest. In his opinion, during the past hundreds of years in the secular world and the world lit, few people had made a breakthrough after the Heaven Peak stage. The problem was probably the influence of the seal. There must be secrets hidden in the sealed Saint Warrior planet. Zhang Han didn't have any idea about how to discover those secrets. At least, the current Zhang Han couldn't figure it out. But was the breakthrough really unachievable? Of course not. There were still some opportunities. As far as Zhang Han knew, among the three Deadlands, there was an opportunity to break through. At the very least, the White Bone Cave he had explored carried such opportunities. It was a place full of danger. Even if Zhang Han went down there now, he would also be risking his life. Nonetheless, the more dangerous it was, the more opportunities it might have. So also did the ancient mines that were often heard, and the worldlet that had everything to do with the secular world. This was a bit terrifying. It was highly likely that these places had all concealed quite a few great opportunities. Although Zhang Han knew this, he chose to keep it to himself on second thought. As the top fighter of Heavenly Knights sect, Dong Chen must continue the war with Wind Snow School, so he had better not go on any trial now. Feel it minutely. Zhang Han sent that remark specifically to Dong Chen before he made the four symbols C start to evolve in Dong Chen's mind. Buzz! Dong Chen suddenly saw a different scene in his mind. Swoosh! A sea of clouds appeared in front of him, and he could see a huge dragon swimming in the sea of clouds. The scene changed. In the blazing sea of flames, an enormous bird zoomed past, stirring up waves of flame that was hundreds of feet high. It was a giant vermilion bird. When the scene changed again, he seemed to be in a desert. However, when Dong Chen took a closer look, his heart contracted in fright. A sea of bones. All he could see were dried bones. A few hundred meters in front of him, he saw that a tiger king, which was as tall as a mountain peak, was taking a nap. When Dong Chen wanted to observe it more carefully, suddenly, the tiger king opened its eyes. Hiss! Dong Chen's heart almost jumped out of his chest. What a horrifying look! The scene changed again. Now it was a normal sea. Splash! It seemed that water surface was rising. After a while, Dong Chen suddenly realized that a huge black tortoise was breaking through the surface of the sea. This turtle is really big. Dong Chen was so shocked that he even forgot it was a black tortoise. As if dissatisfied with Dong Chen's thoughts, the picture broke into pieces. Wisps of energy turned into thousands of silk threads, constantly developing the new route in his body. Four symbols C. Dong Chen focused on observing. After the energy ran a full circle, he bore it in mind. Phew! Dong Chen let out a long breath and slowly opened his eyes. He looked at Zhang Han with shock and admiration. Thank you, young lord. He cupped one hand in the other before his chest. You're welcome. Zhang Han shook his head slightly and added, I have other gifts for you. Here is a set of 5th stage spirit treasure, 18 cards. Among these 3 cards, there are 3 kinds of souls, namely the Flood Dragon, the golden black tortoise, and the winged tiger king. They represent the azure dragon post, the black tortoise post, and the white tiger post. As long as you find the soul of the vermilion bird, you can upgrade it to the highest grade of the 5th stage. The utilization of this weapon is called the 4 symbols formation. With your cultivation method, its power will go up continuously. Therefore, you not only need to cultivate the cultivation method but also the 4 symbols formation. As for the knowledge of the formation, I have sealed it in these 3 cards. Zhang Han stretched out and casually handed the 18 cards to Dong Chen. Well, Dong Chen was a little embarrassed. After taking the cards, he slowly remarked with a complicated look in his eyes, "Thank you, I won't forget this." With that, Dong Chen turned around and left. He was also anxious to go back and try out the new cultivation method. Moreover, as to the 4 symbols formation, it was too complex. He felt he was having a headache. From his expression, I can tell that he has gained a lot. Now it's my turn. Third elder walked straight to Zhang Han before the others could differ. Just like before, Zhang Han sent his voice to him specifically. You are like the swordsman of Heavenly Knights sect. Your sword is very fierce, and you are also a master of swords. Based on your previous cultivation method, I've prepared a set of cultivation method and 3 sets of sword moves for you. After about a quarter of an hour, third elder laughed. With a surprised but delighted expression, he cupped his hands to Zhang Han and left quickly. Then came first elder. He walked to Zhang Han and said eagerly, "It doesn't matter if you don't give a cultivation method. Instead, can you give me a heads up and let me instantly comprehend the 1000 formation image?" Ha ha. Zhang Han couldn't help laughing. He said, "There's no shortcut to comprehending this thing, First Elder. The cultivation method for you is very simple. It can make your spiritual force more condensed, whether in terms of setting up a magic formation or something else. It will help you make progress in all aspects." 10 minutes later, First Elder left with a thrilled face. Then, it was the 3 big heads' turn. Like previously, when the 3 left, they were as gratified as if they had obtained a precious treasure. The way they then deal with Zhang Han couldn't be more friendly. In the end, when it came to Jiang Bing's turn, he looked quite nervous. After getting the cultivation method, he was sort of at a loss. He didn't seem to understand it very well, but he could tell that the cultivation method was much more powerful than the old one. Jiang Bing thanked Zhang Han again and again before taking off, leaving Wang Xiao and Yun Fei Yang behind. They weren't supposed to take this lesson in the first place, yet, their legs seemed to have been rooted to the ground so they couldn't move at all. They just kept staring at Zhang Han. "You too." Zhang Han thought for a while and said with a smile, "I didn't observe you before. You can wait for next time. Still, I can teach you guys 2 secret skills first." As a flash of light crossed his eyes, he passed a couple of secret techniques on to the 2 of them, who then left with satisfaction. "Now it's my turn, isn't it?" Only Zhang Han and Zhang Guangyu are still under the Thunder Yang tree. Just as Zhang Guangyu said that with a smile, a tender voice came from the distance. "Papa, come here." "Ah, I'm coming." Hearing that, Zhang Han quickly turned around and strode to Meng Meng. Zhang Guangyu, who had a blank look on his face, was left behind. Huh? He left just like that? What about my cultivation method? This boy has forgotten me after he grew up. While Zhang Guangyu was still in a daze, he suddenly heard Zhang Han's voice ringing in his ears. He was taken aback at first, but then he laughed. This Dan boy. After that, he also followed up. The cultivation methods Zhang Han had picked for his parents were the best ones, only that many of them were not suitable. At first, Zhang Han tried to develop one from the top cultivation methods. But the workload was too huge. After failing 3 times, he chose to start with secondary cultivation methods. But it was not done yet. It would still take some time. First Elder and the others happened to change their cultivation methods at this time. The meridians in their bodies would take some change. After that, They would also need a few days to get used to the new methods, as Zhang Han and Xian were going out to have some fun, and Zhang Guangyi would be in charge of guarding this place. Chapter 799, Go on a honeymoon? Why did it take so long? Meng Meng's forehead was covered with sweat. She looked up at Zhang Han and pouted. Your grandfather asked me to talk to them. Zhang Han laughed. Meng Meng twisted her little butt and looked at Zhang Guangyi, who was behind her. Grandpa, I don't like you. I really don't like you. Ah? Zhang Guangyi was stunned and didn't know what to say. It seemed that he always took the blame for Zhang Han. He was wondering why his granddaughter ignored him last time. It turned out that the root cause of everything was Zhang Han. He didn't know what Zhang had said. Well, it's not me, it's all Grandpa Dong's fault. He insisted on looking for us. Zhang Guangyi immediately changed the subject. Grandpa Dong is not fat, he's a little thin, he's wearing a long robe. It was his fault last time, the time before last time, it was also his fault. He made Meng Meng unhappy. When I see him next time, Grandpa will beat him, okay? Meng Meng was shocked and thought it was true. She first nodded her little head and then said seriously, No, Grandpa, we can talk to him, but it's wrong to hit him. Well, that's okay. Now that my lovely granddaughter said that, as your grandfather, I would definitely save your face. Zhang Guangyi squatted down and said, I'm so obedient, shouldn't you reward me? While speaking, Zhang Guangyi leaned over and pointed to the right side of his face. Meng Meng raised her head and looked at her papa. When she didn't see any objection, she leaned over and kissed him. Ha ha ha. Zhang Guangyi laughed and was in a very good mood. It was not only because Meng Meng was cute, but also because he had a happy family. In addition, the cultivation method that Zhang Han had just taught Dong Chen and the others made him feel that Heavenly Knight's sect might return to its peak in a few years. It seemed that everything had gone better since the gate of the small world was opened, which made Zhang Guangyi extremely satisfied. He also realized that he had a very promising son. Without him, it was uncertain whether Heavenly Knight's sect could survive the fierce wind snow school. Zhang Guangyi and Xian were playing with Meng Meng, while Zhang Han was sitting in the pavilion, drinking tea and thinking. He kept deducing, except for being interrupted during lunch. He spent the rest of his time thinking about the problem of the cultivation method in the pavilion. It wasn't until the night that he let out a long breath, and a trace of fatigue flashed through his eyes. Papa, we are going to have dinner. I'm coming. After having dinner in the dining hall and returning to the castle, Meng Meng, Xian, Zif, and Zhang Li went to the movie hall to watch a movie. Zhang Han and his parents came to the next room. Mom, Dad, I've also chosen your cultivation methods. Zhang Han shook his head with a smile. I wanted to do it for you after a while, but I know that Dad is eager to have it, so I finished it in the daytime. Ha ha ha, good for you. Zhang Guangyu's eyes lit up. How arrogant you are. Rong Jiali rolled her eyes at him with a smile. The heaven-earth formation of Mount New Moon is controlled by the Thunder Yang tree. It has thousands of changes and can consume crystals. There is a groove under the Thunder Yang tree, and you can put it there. It can also consume divine objects and holy objects. You can also control the formation. If there is an enemy coming while I'm not here with you, you can activate the formation. Then, they won't break in even it cost a year. Zhang Han added. Wait a minute, how can we control the formation if you don't give us the token or something? Zhang Guangyu asked in confusion. The formation of Heavenly Knight's sect could be controlled by the 5 tokens. However, there was also a priority in controlling it. Dong Chen's and the First Elder's tokens were the highest, while the other 3 were slightly inferior. The other sects were also in a similar situation, but it was the first time for him to see that kind of formation, which can be controlled without anything. Because Zhang Han mediated in silence and thought about whether he should explain it in detail. After thinking for a while, he said simply, because of our blood lineage, we are a family. You, Li, Meng Meng, and Zhan can directly control the formation. Oh, I see. Zhang Wenyu nodded and said, okay, you can have a honeymoon with Yan. Besides, didn't you go out during the day and come back at night? Yes. Let's begin. After saying a few words, Zhang Han taught Zhang Wenyu the cultivation method first. This cultivation method is called the Demon Broadsword method, which is a top-level cultivation method in line with knife skills. According to the stages of the cultivation method, there are 18 kinds of secret methods and 99 kinds of combat skills. It was obtained by a cultivator who was at the 7th stage of the tribulation. I have carefully changed this cultivation method, which is enough for you to practice it for a few years. This time, Zhang Han didn't secretly transmit a message to him. After saying a few words in front of him, he began to evolve in Zhang Guanyu's mind. There were a total of 2 kinds of secret methods and 15 kinds of combat skills. Then, he began to teach them. If this thing went too far, it would definitely as bad as not going far enough. Therefore, Zhang Han showed a move that was not much higher than Zhang Wenyu's realm in advance, so that he could understand it. After all, he was Zhang Han's father, so the things he gave were naturally different. Zhang Han only showed a little bit of the 4 symbols C that Dong Chen had obtained, but Zhang Wenyu's mind showed the whole secret skill from the beginning to the end, which was a whole detailed process. After teaching Zhang Wenyu, Zhang Han immediately looked at Rongjiali. Mom, I don't think you're good at fighting, so I'll teach you something easier, the escape method, the cloud hiding skill. I have made a great improvement according to my previous cultivation of the divine walking trick and the divine hiding trick. It was relatively simple for Zhang Han to teach Rongjiali the cultivation method. After all, Zhang Han had a deeper understanding of the divine walking trick and the divine hiding trick. After that, Rongjiali closed her eyes for 3 minutes and then slowly opened them. Well, your mother and I will go back to cultivate first. You can go to accompany Xiaoyan and Meng Meng. Zhang Wenyu smiled and left with Rongjiali. Zhang Han also came to the movie hall and looked at the end of the movie with Meng Meng in his arms. It's over. It's already 9 o'clock. Are we going to sleep? Zhan reached out and scratched the tip of Meng Meng's nose. I'm going to sleep. Well, you can go to sleep, I'll sleep alone. Zif yawned and was a little sleepy. She planned to go back to sleep. I'm going on a date, Zhang Li said casually. She and Liang Hao didn't dare to make out during the day. In the evening, they dare to hug each other now. If Zhang Guanyu saw this, he would be furious again. After a while, they said goodbye to each other and left. The family of 3 went back to the big bed. Zhan and Meng Meng put on lovely pajamas, and Zhang Han wore a pair of boxers. Lying in the middle of the bed, Meng Meng saw that Zhan's long legs and arms were on Zhang Han's body. She also learned to hold Zhang Han with her short legs and small arms. Humphrey, you are so annoying, stand aside. How dare you steal my man? Zhan patted Meng Meng's little hand gently. No. Meng Meng snorted and said, Papa is mine, not Mama's. It's mine. Mine. They began to play. It seemed that it would take some time for them to sleep. Originally, Zhang Han wanted to do something romantic, so he was a little anxious. However, he didn't expect that at 10 o'clock, they fell asleep together in his soft voice when he was telling stories. All right. Zhang Han also slowly closed his eyes. I'll go out and play for a while tomorrow to spend my honeymoon. He and Zhan had never experienced the process of knowing each other and falling in love. Although they were very happy now, a lover's world was still needed. Chapter 800. The Divine List was released. My dear White Rabbit, open the door. Please, open the door quickly. I want to come inside. No, I won't. Mom is not back. On the way to kindergarten, Meng Meng, who was sitting next to Zhan in the back seat, sang happily. Zhan hummed along with the rhythm with her nasal voice. It was a very happy morning. Papa, Mama, you are going to go on a honeymoon today. You go out and play without me." After singing the song and seeing that they were near the school, Meng pouted again. Zhang Han couldn't help laughing when he heard that. He shook his head slightly and said, "Because Meng still has to go to school and get a little red flower, I owe you 38 things now. If you want to go out with us, you can use one. I can ask for leave from Teacher Lu." Before he finished speaking, Xian saw Meng's shining eyes. She treated Zhang Han with disdain and said, "Don't listen to his nonsense. We still have to go to school, don't we?" During the parents' meeting, the teachers always praise Meng. "If you ask for leave, it will delay your studies. If you delay your studies, you will lag behind. In that case, others will have more little red flowers, and Meng will be outdone by others." Meng hesitated all of a sudden. She didn't even blink her big eyes, as if she was weighing it. Should I ask for leave or go out to play, or stay at school to get a little red flower? After hesitating for more than 10 seconds, Meng muttered, "Mommy, then I'll go to school. I want a little red flower." "Good girl." Xian smiled. She also knew a little about Meng's obsession with the little red flower. For Zhang Han, the little red flower was just something fun. It was not important in everyone's eyes. Obviously, it was very important to Meng. "Your mom and I just held a wedding." Zhang Han smiled and said, "Of course, I'll go out with your mom to have a rest. It's almost October 1st now. When you have a holiday, I'll take you out to play, okay?" Okay. Meng suddenly had little expectation for October 1st. When they arrived at the gate of the kindergarten and parked the car, Zhang Han and Xian got out of the car together. They took Meng's little hand and walked into the kindergarten. Many students looked at Meng's mother from a distance. In fact, there were more parents who were fixing their eyes on Meng's mother. A small number of parents knew that Meng's mother was Xian. They could understand that she had a private life as a star. However, the wedding held the day before yesterday, so it made these few people feel a little strange. The child was already in mid-class. How could they get married so late? They did not need to let others know the reason. In detail, Xian and Zhang Han's relationship was also full of twists and turns. Back in the car, Xian sat in the co-pilot's seat, blinking her beautiful eyes, and her eyes were full of brilliance. "Are we in the lover's world?" "Yes, it's the lover's world." "Then, what are we going to do?" "Your little expression makes me want to go back to the castle as soon as possible, and then—" Zhang Han showed an expression to hint at her. "Is that so?" Now Xian also knew how to fight back, so she just winked at him. "You make me feel a little. Or else." Zhang Han looked around. Xian saw that this guy was serious, so she quickly begged for mercy. All right, let's go out and play first." "Okay, I'll deal with you at night." Zhang Han grinned and said, "Where do you want to go?" Xian thought for a while and said, "Let's go to dive into the sea in the morning, deliver lunch to Meng at noon, and drive a sports car for a ride. How about that?" "Okay." Zhang Han was very obedient to Xian's idea. After all, he came out to play with her. So they returned to the castle. Xian took the clothes, which were bikinis, and went straight to the dense forest at the back of the mountain. Under the gaze of the powerful high trio, Wang Zanping, and the first elder, the two of them jumped into the sea. When they jumped down, Zhang Han didn't use much power. The motion of a free-falling body made Xian couldn't help exclaiming. It was a very exciting game. About a minute later, the black pearl broke out of the water from the bottom of the sea, rode the wind and waves, and quickly sailed to the deep sea area. Seeing this, the corners of Wang Zanping's mouth trembled. "I'm in charge of these boats, my formation is in place, but the most important black pearl has been quietly taken away. Alas, his formation is too abnormal. Ha ha ha." The first elder on the other side laughed and said, "Not only do you think he's a pervert, but even I think he's a pervert. Just learn hard. A famous teacher has a brilliant disciple. I'm so lucky to meet him." "That's right, First Elder, 2/3 of our 100 formation image has also been completed. We will soon accompany you to study the 1000 formation image. Wang Zanping still remembered that when Zhang Han set up the 1000 formation image a few days ago, he was fascinated by the flowing light. It was very tempting, but he couldn't understand it. His level was not high enough. Soon, the black pearl disappeared from their sight. These people also continued to study the formation. Zhang Han and Xian were standing at the bow of the ship, leaning against each other. I like being with you. Am I too dependent on you now? Xian was a little clingy like a kitten. It's normal. I'm your husband. Do you still want to rely on others? Then At this time, Xian was wearing a pink bikini. Her body had just moved as if she had felt something. Her pretty face was slightly red. She stopped talking and quickly said, I want to dive. I want to do that in the all together. Okay. Zhang Han looked around with his soul sense. There were a lot of fish and many of them were around the boat, but he didn't see any sharks, so he nodded and said, rest assured to jump. Then I'll jump. Will it be a little high? No, it won't. Then I'll jump. 1, 2, 3. Xian counted 3 times, crossed the railing, and jumped forward. The body of the ship was very high, but Xian was not afraid. She opened her eyes and blinked, looking at the sea getting closer and closer to her. She still felt a little oppressive. But there was no sound of falling into the water. She saw that the surface of the sea below her had sunk a few meters, and then a gentle force helped Xian float up, letting her float 3 meters above the surface of the sea. Clatter. A water column began to rotate around Xian, like a swimming snake, from her white feet to her legs, abdomen, all the way to her neck. It looked like a real snake, staring at Xian. You're so naughty. Xian raised her right hand and clapped it down. Whoosh. As the water column fell, Zhang Han also floated down. My queen, are you ready to enter your underwater palace? Zhang Han smiled. I'm ready. As soon as Xian finished speaking, Zhang Han raised his hands, and the sea within 100 meters in front began to change. After the depression of more than 10 meters, water columns appeared one after another, constantly changing. In a moment, they formed the shape of a palace, and a wave carried them forward. Walking in the sea world made Xian feel very romantic. Zhang Han had a lot of tricks. After forming the palace, he surfed. He let Xian dive several times. When she met sharks, she went over to flirt with them and had fun. Then, she returned to the ship. On the way, there were 2 fishing boats. When they saw the black pearl, they were shocked. What the FCK? There are pirates. Run. Wait, why does this boat look a little old? Is it a little familiar? Hey, isn't that a movie I've watched? It's called Pirates of the Caribbean. That black pearl? What's going on? It made people confused. Why did the ship in the movie run out? Zhang Han told what they had said to Xian, which made her laugh again and again. At 11:30 p.m., they returned to Mount New Moon and drove a Lamborghini at random. They went to the kindergarten to send lunch to Meng Meng and then took a ride on the South Island. Such a leisurely life seemed to make them unable to feel the passage of time. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. In these 2 days, Xian and Zuf began to look for Sun Ming to study the details of the second movie of Pirates of the Caribbean. All the departments also began to prepare. It seemed that they would be busy with work in the next few days. It would only take more than a month for the second movie to be shot. Zhang Han practiced the Athanasia Demon Gong every day, constantly absorbing and digesting energy, and sometimes he would practice Air Shattering Hand. His grasp of the Air Shattering Hand could also be improved a little. At noon on this day, Zhang Han drove to the kindergarten and sent lunch to Meng Meng. When he was about to go to the company to see Xian and the others, Luxan walked over leisurely. Zhang Han opened the door and got out. Mr. Zhang, this time I really... Luxan was already in the divine realm. A cleaner in the divine realm would definitely make people dumbfounded, but Luxan was glad that he came here to be a cleaner. He got to know Zhang Han and got the opportunity to promote himself to the divine realm. Luxang wanted to say something to express his gratitude, but he didn't say much. He was a little stupid. When he was about to express his gratitude, Zhang Han waved his hand and said with a faint smile, "Don't mention it, I'm relieved because you're here. As the saying goes, distant water can't quench thirst." It sounded reasonable. Now that the worldlet is opened, it's not strange to reach the divine realm. You're still a Grand Master, so you're not good enough. Well, okay, I can't refute what you said. Luxang smiled bitterly and said, "But I still need to be grateful. In the future, you can rest assured about Meng's safety in the school. Even if the enemy is very strong, I will try my best to pin them down. Don't do stupid things." Zhang Han laughed and said, Meng is my daughter. I know her safety very well. If there is a strong enemy, I will appear." "That's right." Luxang scratched his head. "By the way, do you know that the divine list has been released? I've heard about it. What about the rankings?" "I didn't ask." "Okay." Luxang was speechless. "You don't care about anything that has caused a sensation in the whole martial arts world, do you? The ranking is based on the battle. Now, the number 1 is Yan Chen of the Lihan sect in the Witch Hidden Realm. He is Yi Long Yuan's eldest brother. I haven't heard of him before. After he appeared, he only participated in 3 battles, but he directly ranked the first. Obviously, he is quite powerful. Yi Long Yuan, the devil incarnate, is ranked 15th. Emperor King has won several big battles. He is now ranked 18th. Long Yi, the talent of the Wind Snow School, is ranked 3rd. Shi Fenwu, the Little Rock, is ranked 11th. It never rains but it pours. The struggle for the rankings on the divine list will start again. Nobody knows who will win the title of Immortal King this time.